It's Energumene opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumene by
Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome to Champ.ie. You know, when I was a little lad, one of the things I was taught was remember the Ides of March. Not my words, the words of Mark Antony. But we are all looking so much forward, aren't we, to the Ides of March. March the 15th and the start of Cheltenham 2022. Lots coming up in the programme, some special guests headed by 2 of Ireland's top draw jockeys, Danny Mullins and Bryan Cooper. They'll be along with their thoughts a little bit later. And I've got 3 wise men who are going to try and find you a few winners. And we may also, fingers crossed, have a special guest joining us as a tipster, not as a guest. Now, of these, let's start. What do I do first? Do I put age before beauty or what? I don't know. How do you describe these 3? All I can say is that never in the field of tipping have so many relied on so few for so little. Let's start by introducing Champ.ie co-founder Barry Doyle, who is not very happy. He's still got some hair on, but he's every time he looks at what price Energumene is for the champion chase, he seems to lose a load. Delighted to welcome back young rising star, up and coming Davy Boland, and also the man from Batterstown, and let's hope he's going more to town than to Batters by the end of the night. Mr. Tommy Coyle, ladies and gentlemen, and bang on cue, I hope and I think we have a very special guest, a man last seen at the Dublin Racing Festival, but a man who I believe did safely get home and has been out and about since. He's going to join us for the first part of the programme. Please welcome the racing blogger, better known as Stephen Power, and what he has to say, I am sure we will be hanging on his every word. He definitely did 3 horses in the same race. We're going to go straight in. What we're going to do, don't forget at the end of it, there will be a 5-cast. There'll be a competition 5-cast. And I'm going to invite the lads also to put in a selections for a 5-cast that we hope will raise a few quid for the Irish Injured Jockeys Fund as well. But we start with race 1 because it is one of the big races of the entire week. It is the Sky Bet Supreme Novice Hurdle, a classic Anglo-Irish showdown. Probably Sir Gerard and Dysart Dynamo leading the way for the Irish, Constitution Hill and John Bon leading the way for the English. Let's start with some form sense. Davy Boland, have first go at this one.
I think whichever race Sir Gerhard runs in, I think he'll win. I think he's my banker of the week. Very fond of the horse. Obviously, winning the champion bumper last year, maiden hurdle, he did what he had to do. But I thought in Dublin Racing Festival, he was very impressive. I don't think the trip will bother him, whether it's 2 mile or 2.5. I know there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, he'll run in this, he'll run in that." Nobody knows. There's only one man that knows, and that's Willie Mullins. Look, the best of the English horses, Constitution Hill. He's probably beaten nothing to now, but I suppose that's all he can do is beat them the way he's beaten them. Dysart Dynamo has been very impressive. He was in Punchestown, but if Sir Gerhard goes here, he's the one for me.
Got to say as well, I was at Nicky Henderson's last week and he got out Constitution Hill and John Bon and he stood between them. He said, one is the most laid back horse I've ever had and the other is anything but. It's sounded like me and the mother-in-law. They're 2 horses that are so different. Tommy, if you could train one in this, what would you want to be training?
I suppose Davy's probably right, Sir Gerhard. Just because he's so versatile, he can probably go for both trips as well. I like John Bon for some reason. It's just that line. Colonel Mustard puts a line through both Sir Gerhard and John Bon. All right, it was a farcical race when Lorna's horse went over to England, but John Bon couldn't have done it much easier. He'd done it easy again since. I think this race probably might suit him a bit better because obviously there's going to be a lot more pace. He'll have time to settle in through it. I think kind of looking at the betting, he's probably the value at 9-2 for each way go. But I think Davy's right though. Sir Gerhard, he was very good in Leopardstown. He's got course form, obviously being champion bumper winner. So look, as you're right, Willie holds the aces really in this. So it'll be interesting to see. Constitution Hill is another good horse. I seen the piece of work he done the other day. We done it with Epitant, and they just gave him an inch of rain, and the horse took off. So he's obviously well in himself, heading towards the festival. So look, as you said, Mike, it's probably going to be, could be the race of the week. But I have a little inkling, John, there's a bit more to come from John Bon.
Well, every time I hear the word nails Colonel Mustard, I expect it to be followed with the spanner in the lounge. Those of us that remember that wonderful game. Good evening, Mr. Blogger, sir. How very nice to see you, looking young, fit, and handsome. What do I need to go to Specsavers? What do you make of it, Steve? And you are muted, so can you unmute yourself? Let's try again. What do you make of it, Steve?
Well, I mean, what a race to kick the Cheltenham Festival off. We've got 4 horses going to post who all look like world beaters, and the buzz is going to be sensational first and foremost. I can't wait to soak up the atmosphere on course. I think John Bon gets more hate than me on social media. Everywhere I go, there are knockers, there are lambasters, there are people slagging the horse off left, right, and centre. And I think that's mainly due to the 570 grand fee that he cost. Everything he's done on track, I've been so impressed with him. And seeing John Bon in Constitution Hill down at Nicky Henderson's, Constitution Hill was a small-looking horse. John Bon was a big, gross-looking chaser in the making. And it wouldn't surprise me if he were to turn up here and jump the last and power to the line to win. But I do think the horse to beat is Sir Gerard for Willie Mullins. I think he's got the race covered. I was so impressed with him at Leopardstown. He's not come off the bridle. Champion bumper winner. Willie knows what it takes to win this, having the likes of the late Duvan and obviously Vitor, the late Vitor as well. I think Sir Gerard's the one to beat, but I think John Bon's going to lay it down to him. People keep on writing him off, and he keeps on delivering.
Well, I just described him the other day as an ordinary racehorse with noughts on the end. And here's an ordinary human being without noughts on the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Welcome, blogger.
Cheers. Cheers,
yeah, I suppose there was only 8 runners in this last year, wasn't there? So I reckon it could be a small field again. Less than one of the stats. I'm not mad for the stats, but I did look up some of them, and less than 3 starts over hurdles would be a negative for both maybe Constitution Hill and Dysart Dynamo. There's been no winner since 08. I suppose that hasn't had at least 3 starts. So experience may be a worry for 1 or 2 of them. One that I like in this, and sorry, there's just a bit of feedback coming. I'm going to mute you again, blogger. One horse that I like, and I know Davy liked him early on in the season, Mighty Potter. He's a double-figure price. He's a Grade 1 winner, and I can't for the life of me see why he is a double-figure price. He's the one I like in here each way. If we do get the 8 runners, I like what Gordon's done with him. He's given him a good, I suppose, break since Christmas, and a strong run 2 miles for, I suppose, I think this horse is an absolute beast. I saw him at Fairy House, and I can see this horse staying on better than anything. I reckon he devours the hill. As I said, I'd worry about experience with 1 or 2 of them. John Bon, of the shorter price horses, I do like John Bon. The ground at Haydock was desperate. And he's the one horse out of the likes of Constitution Hill, out of your, I suppose, your Sir Gerhards, your Dysart Dynamos. He's the one horse this season that has come off the bridle. And I was impressed with how we found at Haydock. Plenty were underwhelmed, but for me, at the prices, I can't see Mighty Potter out of the tree. I think he will stay up the hill well, and the faster they go, the better it'll suit him, Mike. That's my selection. Mighty Potter each way.
Okay, well, let's potter on straight away to the next on the card, which is the Sporting Life Arkle. There's no pressure on Edwardstone here, is there? I mean, he's 4 from 4, and he's the only Brit against a battalion of the Irish. Interesting comments from Jack Kennedy about how excited he is at the prospect of riding this Riviere D'TEL if it goes there. Mr. Blogger, sir, are you an Edwardstone fan? It'd be nice to see Alan King in the winner's enclosure on day 1, because I suspect he wouldn't be very hoping if he was going to have to wait to day 4 for his first win. Is this Brit up to it?
No, he's going to get rolled over, and he's going to get rolled over by the mare in scintillating style. She's going to power up the hill. A Marteline, Jack Kennedy in the saddle, ploughing away. She's going to win by 3 or 4 lengths. This is the each way bet at a meeting, and I actually can't see her being beat. The Fernie Hollow form line at Leopardstown is very strong. We all know she should have won last time out at the Dublin Racing Festival, where she walked through the last. She suffered a bit of interference. She still managed to battle back. It was a travesty. She was beaten that day. I left Ireland a few euros down due to it, but I'll be reclaiming that in the Arkle chase. She will win.
It's good to see a man in demand even for that. Is that somebody trying to take you on, I wonder? Barry, are you of a similar mind on this?
It's wide open Arkle, isn't it? Wide open. Again, I reckon we could have a small field again in here. Plenty of pace on, but the 5-year-old angle, obviously Hot and Calor, Saint Sam and Riviere D'TEL, there will be pace on. I think it could set it up for a closer in Blue Lord. I can't see how she reverses the form. There is one at a big price that I like, double figure price. That's Magic Days. She impressed me on her second start at Cork. I was disappointed she got beaten. It was bad ground. She got beaten by Concertista on her third start over fences. She has had a long break. She looks well in the little spa pool of Henry de Bromheads there recently on a stable tour. I think she could represent maybe a bit of each way value for I suppose those looking for one at a bigger sort of a price. But again, I'd just be watching. I wouldn't be playing each way just yet because we don't know how many runners you're going to get. So I just watch that space. But for me, Blue Lord wins 11-4 seems value.
From Blue Lord fan to a what fan, Davy?
I'll keep it simple. I won't delay. 100% agree with Stephen. The mare's going to win. I think the faster they go, the more it's going to suit her. Yeah, she's for me, and Saint Sam each way. I think the good gallop that they'll go, he'll stay on late on and be placed. But I think the mare will be. I know she has to turn the form, and she's a couple of pounds less off than she was at Leopardstown, but she's for me.
And Mr. Coyle, people have asked you this in all sorts of different contexts. Do you fancy the mare?
Yeah, we're definitely going to get her beat by the sounds of it because we're all picking her. Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a rematch from Leopardstown. I think Blue Lord and Riviere D'TEL are going to be the main two in it. I just think I do agree with Stephen. She probably deserved to win in Leopardstown, but I think the track is probably going to suit her a bit more coming back up that hill. So look, yeah, I'll keep it simple. She's for me as well. I think she'll win.
That's brilliant. We move straight on then to the big race on day one. And this is the Unibet champion. Honeysuckle comes back for more. Appreciate it. Epitant. But let's go straight in on this one. Tommy, have first innings on it.
I can't believe you didn't go to the blogger about Honeysuckle first. I actually
I'm waiting because I'm sure he needs time to consider how strong he's going to be on this. Because I was going to ask a trainer the question of, do you think she'd win this at level weights? Because inevitably after the race, if she's gone and won again, the old £7 allowance business is going to raise its ugly head, isn't it?
Yeah, but I even with the £7, I can't see it. Willie's is the only danger, but he's such an unknown, having not run. Look, she's tried, she's tested, she's as good as you can get, really. I can't see anything going down. I do think Zana here could sneak a place. I see 20-1 flashing on the screen here. You know he's going to stay up that hill. Look, it's probably going to be an ordinary champion hurdle bar Honeysuckle, but look, she's going to take all the beating. But I'd have a little bit each way, maybe on Zan here, maybe to fill out one of the places.
And so there are a couple of unexposed. Appreciate it. Obviously not having had a run. And Tiapu, who was quite impressive last time. Davy, Honeysuckle for you?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. You know, what Tom, you said about the £7 or what you mentioned, you know, it kind of reminds me of the, obviously, I'm a proud dub, but the thing you're hearing for the last few years of, fucking split Dublin up in two, you know, they're only going to keep winning, do north and south and all this bullshit, right?
You may add a few now.
Desi Farrell, yeah, right? Now Desi Farrell's taken over, a few players have left, right? Now we need help. We're no good now. And what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years is everyone's going to say, split Limerick up. You know, JP McManus's money, too much money. It's like this with the weights. Before honeysuckle, or the mares need the £7. They need the £7, and just because a real special one comes along, then they're saying, "Oh, fucking get rid of the £7." It's the biggest load of shite. Men don't take women on in sport, and it's the same with animals. That's the way it is. She deserves the £7, and with or without it, she'll win. It's obviously very fascinating to see what Appreciate It will do. If one man can do it, it is Willie. But still, even if he's had a couple of runs this season, I don't think he's good enough to beat the mare.
I must make sure the mother-in-law doesn't watch this. This men can't take on women in sport. I'm going to get myself into terrible trouble. Going to save the blogger till last on the Great Honeysuckle. Barry, in brief, honeysuckle or no honeysuckle for you? And what's if she does win, what follows her home?
I like the way you said in brief. Am I that long all the time with my answers?
Some of your sentences have been longer than Judge Jeffries through the years, yeah.
Well, a little quick stat. I've been looking up the stats, Mike Vince. 1927, since it was the last time a horse won the champion hurdle, without having a run that season. So it's a mighty task for Appreciated. He's a filthy each way bet at 72. I've backed him at bigger prices. He was magic in the Supreme last year. She's faced nothing to his level last year. And I would be saying that, you know, he's obviously, the vibes are good. She's going to be tough to beat, but I can't see how he's out of the tree. He's going here. Willie Mullins has done it before with the likes of obviously Quevega, as Davy said. And yeah, it's an interesting runner. I didn't expect it at the start of the year. But I think it's between the two, and I'll back him each way. Is a filthy each way bet on Appreciated. There you go.
Quevega did it again and again and again and again. Come on then. The floor is all yours, Mr. Blogger, on the subject of honeysuckle. Where you go?
Well, first of all, I think Davy has just Davy spelt it out fantastically well there with the mare's allowance. You know, women don't take men off equal weights, and anyone who says mares shouldn't be receiving an allowance is talking absolute waffle. So let's move on from that. Honeysuckle will turn up and Honeysuckle will win. It's as simple as that. She's the best horse in the race, regardless of the weight. She's sensational, and every year I love the way Henry de Bromhead really trains this mare. He trains her to peak in March. Her peak performances have been at the festival. You look back to when she beat Benny de Jure. You look back to when she won the champion hurdle last year. And let's not forget, she was backed in from 15 to 8 to 11 to 10 last year in a grade 1. It takes serious money to move a horse on the exchange in a grade 1. There's nothing in the race to beat her. I think Appreciate It needs heavy or soft ground to get anywhere near her. She will turn up and she will do what she always does, and that's win. Stick her in every double, every treble, and every acca you have going, because Honeysuckle will not get beat. She's a certainty.
And that's where you heard it. Thanks, lads. That is day one done. Unless very briefly, you've anything else you want to throw in the mix, but can we keep this brief so we can move on? Anything else on day one?
In the Boodles, Gaelic Warrior, Willie Mullins has been well talked about. Willie got him from France and entered him in England first, so he'd get a handicap mark there. And had to be revised then when he came back to Ireland. He hasn't ran for Willie in Ireland, but supposedly his work at home is meant to be devastating, and he's very, very well fancied in the Boodles.
Okay, let's move to day two.
I just have one more quick one just for the Boodles on an each way thing. Dr. Brownbear has changed from our good friend Brendan Duke to Martin Brazel. If you just look at his form, he's behind the likes of Phil Dore and Iker Allen. I'd say he could be well handicapped off that, and you could imagine Martin Brazel might just eke out a little bit more improvement in him. He was a big purchase by the Mullins, so they might get some of their money back here. So he's just one to watch. He's around 20 to 1.
Mike, chat. Before you go ahead, I have a couple to fire into the mix. Ultima. The Brits have a brilliant record in the Ultima, and I like two in here, both English trained. One being Korak Rambler, Lucinda Russell, Done himself a massive favour, I'd say, Mike Vince, by coming down into Reynoldston. He's preserved his mark of 140 and was absolutely laughing at them at the same course and distance at Cheltenham, coming down the hill. He's a kind of a quirky sort of a horse. He needs to be held up, but won at Cheltenham in December, which is a big tick, I suppose, going to the Ultima. 140, he'll be down near the bottom of the weights. I think he's a huge chance, 12 to 1 each way. And the other one I like in there is, I'm warming to now, he has entries into Kinmure, is Tom George's Come On Teddy, third into Pretemps last year. Will he just will he sneak in off 137 in the Ultima? He's won, has had 3 very interesting runs over fences, has won over fences and 2 runs to back that up that I found interesting. Ran 5th behind Lahan Press at Cheltenham over 2.5 miles, stepped up in trip. And I think that's the key to this horse. He's only an 8-year-old and he's plenty of upside. That's Come On Teddy. Another British trained horse in the Boodles, and the Irish have a big record in this race. And I suppose I heard this comment earlier. We'll just say this about a lot of the Irish horses, particularly in the handicaps, are going to, chances are they're going to be very much over bet. Like Davy's talking with Gaelic Warrior. I don't care how good his work is at home. 5 to 2 in a Boodles. But how many runners are you going to have in a Boodles? For me, I'd rather take something like Saint Seagal, 126 rated. Might just sneak in again at the bottom of the weights. 3 runs for Jane Williams, who's done well with her juveniles, to be fair. So 12 to 1. He's one I've liked for a while, and I don't see how Run Wild Fred gets beaten in the National Hunt Chase. I think he's banker material on day one. There's still 11 to 4 available. That is a mad price. I don't know how this horse is bigger than the likes of 2 to 1. I think there's value in that. Run Wild Fred has an ideal profile for the race.
Okay, that is day 1 complete. And we move straight on to day 2. And of course, this has got a centerpiece race that is really potentially something very special. The Ballymore starts us off. We're talking about one that's gone to Martin Brazel, will carry the Ballymore colours on day 1. What wins the Ballymore on day 2? Barry?
You came to the wrong man on the Ballymore, Mike, because it's the one race of the whole festival, especially in the novice races, that I've absolutely no opinion on. The one thing I would say, Nichols has never won the race. Stage Star, the last 12 winners of the race have won a bumper at some stage. So the bumpers, Ronald Groom isn't on the show tonight. He hates bumpers, but it tends to be a good pointer. Good bumper horses tend to go on, run well in the Ballymore. So walking on air, maybe a negative for him. I've no opinion. I'd like to see Sir Gerhard run here. I know all the money's come from in the Supreme on the exchanges. He's been a big, he's come for a lot of money on the exchanges in the last day or so. I'd like to see him run here. Ginto and Journey With Me both look stairs. And if either of those are to win the race, and they're going to have to make it a real strong pace in front, because if you do get the likes of a Dysart Dynamo in particular, or a Sir Gerhard, to me they're going to have to make it a real stamina test. One I did like, and if he did line up in here, I could see him running a huge race. I spoke to Danny. He seemed to tend to be leaning maybe towards the Albert Bartlett. Some interesting comments both sides of the coin. But MINELLA CROONER won the first race at the Dublin Racing Festival. Jumps very well. And I think if he did run in this race, he could maybe be a lively outsider. That's if he turned up. Sir Gerhard goes in here. I think he wins it, but I have no opinion, and I probably won't have a bet.
Because that's all we need is the commentator's nightmare, because we all had to deal with it in Dublin when MINELLA CROONER and MINELLA CROONER took each other on and finished first and second. Didn't sleep for hours tonight, the week before. Let's go next. Who fancies this? TC, Tommy Coyle.
Look, it's very hard. As he said, we don't know what's going on, but I like Ginto. Look, we know he's probably going to go for this race as well, as he's done most of his running over 2.5 miles. He beat a good horse in Grand Jury the last time in Nace. He stuck it out well. Yeah, I do agree with Barry. It's going to have to be a test of stamina for that, but he's a good, decent horse. He only has the one blip in his copybook, and that was by What Do You Want of Mulrines. But for me, at this stage, when the betting's like that, when you're nearly certain that this horse this looks like his trip, he could be the bet now. As I said, it's very hard to know what's going where, but I do like Ginto. I think he's going to be some chaser in the making, but he'll hold his own in this field.
Mr. Blogger, sir, you were in the Dublin Racing Festival. I'm sure you were here close to. This is almost
Sinking
one of the
Guinness it
bin
was.
mark. Far too difficult, hasn't it? Until such time as we know what's going to turn up.
Yeah, absolutely. Jockey bookings, who's going to turn up, and even more importantly, what is the official going actually going to be at Cheltenham? Because that's really where, if you're going to have a big bet, are you going to be backing on soft ground or good to soft? It's going to make a huge difference. My two angles on this will be Walking on Air and I Am Maximus for Nicky Henderson, who I think is the second greatest trainer in history of winners at Cheltenham. I think both of the horses are very talented. I Am Maximus is still a big baby at the age of 6. Obviously, brings the Hillcrest form into the race. And Walking on Air, every now and again, you see a performance from a novice and you just sit back and go, wow, that was flawless. And his performance at Newbury, beating Gary Moore's He Could Be the One, was unbelievable that day. And I know a few people who work down in Lambourne at Nicky's, and they've all said to me, this horse is special. So if he does line up Walking on Air at 9-1, I think he could potentially be a bit faster than some of the Irish horses, especially on good soft ground. And I think he could be a stonking each way bet.
Okay, Davy.
I really like, obviously, again, I go back to what I said when we started. It all depends on Sir Gerhard. If he goes here, he wins. But if he goes to the Supreme, which we think he will, I really like Journey with Me. He looks like a horse that's just going to keep improving. And I'd like to see him in this race. I'm not saying that he is a Bob Ollinger, but he's that sort of type. He keeps improving, keeps getting better. He'll stay, they'll go good gallop, everything will suit him. And he'll be the one for me.
So we move on to the Brown Advisory, which, to remind those who, like me, have to check the race titles every time, this is the 3-mile novice chase. Let's just remind everybody of that. I'm just back from Nichols's earlier today. I've got to say the horse looked $1 million, Brave Man's Game. He's 4 from 4. But Blogger, is he good enough? You're mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely good enough. He costs 370 grand for a reason. Like you said, he's a hell of a specimen. And one thing's for sure, since he's gone over fences, the horse is, £15 better straight away. He's one of the best novice jumpers we've seen this year. He's a phenomenal horse, but he's taking on a serious one potentially, and Willie's Galloping the Champs. So, is Galloping the Champs going to line up again? We don't know at this stage. The exchange is hinting that he is, because Bob Ollinger's gone from 2-1 into 11-10, and that money wouldn't be coming for him if the people in the know didn't know where Galloping was going. So look, I think if the two of them line up together, who's the most likeliest winner? In my opinion, I think Galloping the Champs is just that bit classier. But it's a hell of a race. I'm not a fan of Venetia Williams' horse. I've been stressing this all week, Lahon Press. I don't think he's beaten a good horse yet. I think he's been flattered to win the races he's won. And when he won the Scilly Isles Novice Chase at Sandown last time, Pick Dory choked. The form's not worth the paper it's written on. That would be a place late for me. But I think Willie's got this lined up with Galloping the Champs. I think it's pretty special.
Yeah, it's a grade 1 in name only, that's Scilly Isles, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
What about you, Barry? This Galloping, of course, whatever wins the Martin Pipe is a handicapper in name only, because, of course, they've won it in the past with horses that are going to be placed in the Gold Cup. And I know it's a horse you've looked at closely since he won last March. You're muted now as well. Everybody's lost for words tonight. Try again.
I said the exchange is probably just as well I was muted, because the exchanges have gone bonkers in the last, 24 hours. Allegory Devassi and Energumene and Galloping the Champ. I backed him for the Turners at a big price, anti-post, after the festival last March. And I don't know, listen to connections and all the interviews that, they seem to be hinting that he is going for the 2.5 mile race. And then obviously, for me, I think he'll go for the Turners. This horse, I know we're previewing the Brown Advisory here, but when we're on the subject of Galloping the Champ, he's the way he travelled through the first mile of the race at Leopardstown at Dublin Racing Festival. He was quite keen in the race. His jumping is his biggest asset. I don't know why on earth they would run him here. Surely they'd have learned from ALLAHO. who would have been banker material if he went to 2.5. And when they stepped him up in trip, he was just maybe too free. I could see if Galloping Deschamps goes in here, I'd be afraid of that, the same thing happening. And I think, his strengths are at the, I suppose, the intermediate distance, certainly for this season anyway. The one I do like in here, and I was just hoping that he would run, because connections we're talking about maybe potentially missing Cheltenham with him. But a High Seigneur is a horse that I absolutely love. On hurdles form, it's better than Brave Man's Game, arguably. When he beat him at Aintree, Brave Man's Game, it mightn't have been the real Brave Man's Game that we saw at Aintree. Brave Man's Game is jumping, is electric, I get that, but I think a High Seigneur, the track at Cheltenham, I know it's going left-handed, I know he shows tendencies to jump out to his right, but I still think the track at Cheltenham may play more into his strengths. He represents, I think, a bit of value here at 5-1 best price. Capodanno is also a horse that I did like. I suppose it would be a negative the way he jumped last time, and Willie reported, I suppose, bruising or a shoulder injury after his fall last time. So Willie have got over that. There are two horses I like. I will side with a High Seigneur, regardless whether Galloping Deschamps runs in here. I think he's a model for the 2.5 race, and I hope that's the way to go.
Davy, Boland, this is the problem with this race, isn't it? There are several horses going into it who are 4 from 4, 3 from 3, and they've done everything right, except they've beaten what's been put in front of them. But we just don't know how good they actually are, do we?
No. I'm going to review this race as where I think Galloping Deschamps is going to go, and that's the Turners. I don't see Willie running them in this, simply because when you watch the way Paul rides the horse, he's a very good jumper. He is keen. It just makes sense. Go with Galloping the Turners. Himself and Bob Bollinger fight it out. We'll get to that, I'm sure. We all like to see a good horse. There's nothing better than watching good horses. But I'll tell you one thing: I love watching Brave Man's Game jumping. He's just magic. Absolutely magic. As Stephen said, he's such a better horse over a fence than he is over hurdling. He was a good hurdler. You got to remember, he probably bottomed out when he got to Aintree, but what Bob Bollinger did in Cheltenham last year was devastating. We haven't seen that. That head cam when you're watching Rachel taking a pull going by him, that was scary. That was, he's just a ridiculously good horse. But I think Brave Man's Game will win this. I think Barry's off his rocker, thinking your man will turn the form with him off Kempton. He jumps right-handed as well. So jeez. No,
just confirming what we've known for years about Mr. Doyle. Are you going to agree about the state of Mr. Doyle's mind, Mr. Coyle? That took some saying.
Yeah, I actually couldn't wait to have a go with him. And Davy just kind of got in. I think he's been on the vino from early this morning. Barry thinking that Lucinda Russell's horse can turn around the form of Brave Man's Game. Not a chance. No, look, he jumped so well. As you said, I can't see Galloping Deschamps going for this race either. So it's Brave Man's Game to lose. I do. The only thing I have to agree with him then, I do kind of like Capodanno as an alternative. I think the step up to 3 mile will help him. He won his beginners nicely, and he gave when Bob Bollinger was electric in Punchestown, he was with him going down to the last. So he has good form against a good horse there. A bit of a blip in Leopardstown the last day, but you've got to remember, them 2 fences going away from the stands in Leopardstown catch out so many horses. You're running away from the stands and slightly downhill, and they do catch out a novice, especially them 2 fences. They're probably the 2 hardest fences to jump around Leopardstown, which is usually a good flat track, but it does catch out a novice. And just the first one going down the hill caught him out. Didn't give Mark much of a chance, but I do like him on the step up and trip. I think he can ride him a little bit more patiently and get him into a routine. So I think he's the each way option, but I concede Nichols' horse winning this.
Well, we've got Danny Mullins coming soon, talking about his rides. But obviously, before we do that, we must talk about one of surely the races of the week and probably of several weeks. Because before we talk about what's going to win, the prospect of this lot lining up for the Betway Queen Mother is going to pack the stands. When you think that you've got Shishkin versus Energumene, you've got Chacun Pour Soi, and you've got past winners in Politologue and Put the Kettle On, who may well both go off at double-figure prices, which is almost unheard of. Barry, I thought you'd have a black armband on with the news that Energumene is drifting out in the on the exchanges ahead of this. But Blogger, I know you've got to disappear shortly, so I'm very much interested in knowing what you've got, your thoughts are on this, because if you just wanted to go and watch a horse race, and as I said before, you start thinking about what you're going to bet, you won't better this if they all turn up, will you?
First off, this will not be beaten. This will not be beaten.
There you have. I've muted him. I can't listen to that.
Did you actually pass your singing grade 8?
well, when the Adam's apple popped out, it all went to hell. First and foremost, for anyone,
my finger was under a move button there. But go on.
For anyone who's never been to a horse race, this certainly would be one of the ones to go to, because on paper it looks incredible. Unfortunately, the race is in tatters. Judging by the exchange, Energumene's out to 9-1. Doesn't look like he's going to line up to me, but we still have Chacun Pour Soi. There's two versions of this horse, as we all know. There's the Irish Chacun and there's the English Chacun. The English Chacun is a 150 handicapper. The Irish Chacun is a 170 horse. Shishkin won't be beaten. Left-handed. It's his to lose. This is the banker of the meeting. Without
Get out of here. He's gone. I've ejected him.
You've thrown him out? Or was he one of his own accord? Power by name and Doyle's fingers by nature.
Did you really?
Lads, how can we throw him out?
Here he is. He's back.
Hey!
I'm going to say, Doyle,
Barry, behave yourself. Behave yourself.
That's the fact it's drifting. Anyway, let's move on. And
Spoiled baby is Stephen.
Let's get the voice of sanity on this. I'm not even going to let Doyle talk about it. I'm just, because I could almost write his script now. Let's get some sanity and turn to the wonderful and always very sane and sensible Mr. Davy Boland. This really is, even if it turns out to be Chacun and not Energumene, this is a great horse race for a horse racing purist.
Again, I just reiterate what Stephen said. Like, if you haven't been horse racing, obviously Cheltenham's the best place to go. But this is some race. They'll just go helter skelter, proper rattle. Real good horses, jumping at speeds. But Shishkin wins. I have a pain in my head banging onto Barry that Shishkin's just better than Energumene, and that's just the way it is. I honestly think if Shishkin stepped up in trip, he'd win the Ryanair, and you know what? I won't say I can go further, but I just say any trip this horse can win. He has everything: jumps, pace. He settles as well, which is very important. And the man on his back obviously knows him very well. And it's a great partnership. Shishkin will win.
And are we ganging up on Doyle? Thomas, are you a Shishkin fan? Oh, you've muted yourself now. This is getting infectious, this.
Nothing new there. We're all gang up on the Carlo, man. Look, he wins. As Stephen says, there's too many questions about other horses. Chacun, will he produce what he can do? Obviously, Energumene, as he's drifting out. What I think, though, it's great that the Champion Chase is coming back to what it was, as in Moscow Flyers a few years ago. Like, no disrespect to put the kettle on. She won. She beat Newbury Negra, and if you look at them in the betting, they're a good bit down the list this time, which is putting a bit more spice back in. Because as we do know, 2 Mile Chaser flat out is as good as we can see. Especially if you have the like of Chacun on a good go and they play fighting against Shishkin, and even put an Energumene in there for the mix. It would be a great race. But as you've said, there's too many questions about Willie's too. So like he is probably a great bet at even at slight odds on Shishkin. He does nothing wrong. He jumps great. Nico knows him. When he hits that flat spot, he seems to pick him up. And that race, the last day in Ascot, was what's racing's all about. And watching the blogger have a good roar on the sideline even makes it a little bit better. But look, yeah, he's the class over that side of the pond. So you'd have to stick with him.
Okay. You pay a 10p fine for every time you mention the word Energumene. Away you go.
Sure, look, I just hope he's okay. The exchanges are going wild. So Yeah, if he doesn't run, the blogger will be shouting because I look. I think they're the best two in the race. The whole check and Poursois talk, you know, if Energumene, for me, he's a better horse than Energumene is a better horse than check and Poursois. Although we don't really know how he'll handle Cheltenham. That is the one unknown. But I could see him being better on better ground, just the way he races Energumene. Hopefully, Everton's all right, and hopefully it's just one of those mad things that we're seeing on the exchanges over the last couple of days. Look, it doesn't look good. I have the merchandise ready to go, with the hats and the scarves and the headbands and the whole lot. But look, the race at Ascot was unreal. It was an unbelievable race. And probably the best race I can remember. I thought we had it in the bag. And yeah, so it wasn't to be. But look, it's hopefully they all make it. And that's what I will say. And if they do, what's the current price on Energumene? 5 to 1 in around that mark? Is he bigger than that? I didn't look.
9 to 2 I see here now.
Yeah, so
all I would say is those of you that live anywhere near Barry, just keep an eye open on the bridges around the place on Wednesday evening, because we might be looking for empty bottles and various other things.
Before we change, can I just ask, does anybody give Envoy Allen any chance at all?
No. Anybody else? But I would also, it's fascinating, isn't it? When was the last time? Here's one, and I can't answer it. When was the last time a winner of a major Cheltenham Grade 1, in other words, one of the elite Grade 1s, went back to defend her title and was sent off a double-figure price?
Yeah,
I mean, it is ridiculous. I think you're going to have to. Are you jumping with it? Are you going to have to disappear, or are you all right for a bit, blogger?
I'm good for another 15 minutes.
Fine. Okay. Well, we will move on, because what we're going to do is take a pause for all of us halfway through. Don't forget, we're looking for your 5 as well, a 5 cast at the end of all this nonsense. But hopefully we might find some agreement in the camp as we move to day 3. But first, a man for whom day 3 12 months ago was a very special one, as he rode his first Cheltenham Festival winner. And he was, of course, a late substitute on Flowering Porter, who made all to win the Stayers. It is, of course, the man who's enjoyed so much success in the last 12 months, Danny Mullins.
So delighted to welcome back to the Champ.ie podcast, of course, our Cheltenham Festival preview with Danny Mullins. Danny, great to have you on again.
Thanks, yeah, it's great to be on. Exciting time of the year.
That time of the year again, of course. And Danny, things have been going well for you. 33 winners so far this year. You've already equaled last year.
Yeah, you know, it's been a great year, and thankfully among those 33 winners were some big winners, and you know that's what it's all about. And hopefully we'll get plenty more numbers before the end of the season, and a few nice spring festivals to come our way as well.
Absolutely, and we were talking about big winners. I suppose cast ourselves back to the Cheltenham Festival last year, Danny. Of course, Flowering Porter. There was no crowds there last year. There'll be crowds there this year. He's a horse that likes to get on with things. How is he, I suppose, heading into Cheltenham this year?
He's good. You know, I sat him in Fairy House the other day, and he behaved himself very well. You know, he's the more racing he seems to get, the better he seems to behave. You know, early in the season, he can be just that little bit fresh in himself, but the more he does, the more confidence you have in him.
Yeah, and last season, obviously, the Stayers hurdle, he got his own way of things out in front. I suppose, would that be would those type of tactics be in your mind heading into the Stayers this year?
I'm sure he'll be ridden forward, but you know, Leopardstown at Christmas, he wasn't in front, and it didn't seem to bother him any time. Paul tried to steady the race up there. I moved up sides him to keep the gas on all the way, and that was clearly evident in the way they all finished. They were strung out like the washing behind us, and Classical Dream probably took a bit longer than was expected to recover from that race. And, you know, the fact that Flowering Porter's had that bit of time off, Gavin wanted to stick to the same plan as last year to have that run at Christmas and go back to Cheltenham. So, you know, all seems to be coming into line for Cheltenham.
Speaking about I suppose, big wins this season, Danny. No bigger than Tornado Flyer, of course, on St. Stephen's Day at Kempton. King George winner by 9 lengths. That must have been a good feeling.
Yeah, it was fantastic, to win a race like the King George's, a day I'll never forget. Hopefully I can have a crack in the future, win a few more of them. But, Tornado getting across the line in front this year, it was a fantastic day.
Yeah, he's a 9-year-old, Danny. And, obviously spoke with Florian Porter there, lots of experience. This horse has had 12 runs over fences, but I did notice it was only a second run over 3 miles. So do you think could he be underestimated going into the Gold Cup?
I think so. His first run over 3 miles, he just didn't perform one day in Leopardstown. And the way he hit the line in Kempton, I was quite pleased with that. He'd always maybe struggled for pace at the midpoint of the race over 2.5. So the way he got jumping and travelling through the middle of the race in Kempton was very encouraging. And you'd have to think that maybe even going 2 furlongs further could bring out more in him, but who knows? That's you're getting into the unknown at that point of the race in a Gold Cup, and the tempo that a Gold Cup will be run at, it really finds them out. But we'll be pleased with Kempton and eagerly awaiting Cheltenham.
Yeah, do you think he's come forward?
I think he's in great shape at home. I've sat in him and he's bouncing. It's a very competitive Gold Cup. There's plenty there. You can give your chances to. You've Galvin, a Plutard, Minella, Indo. Don't forget Album Photo. He was maybe not at his best when third last year. Previous winner of 2 Gold Cups. Protector Rat is a horse Dan Skelton has put away after winning an entry. It's such a competitive race this year, and who knows who will come out on top. But I think Tornado Flyer on his form at Kempton, it gives him a solid chance of being in the mix with all of them.
Yeah, good stuff, Danny. Best of luck with that. MINELLA CROONER, of course, the Nathaniel Lacey at Leopardstown at the Dublin Racing Festival. You kicked off the festival with a fine front-running performance with MINELLA CROONER, Danny. He looks a fair tool.
He does, and it was probably gone a little bit under the radar. He won, beat the first day, then won his maiden hurdle in Navan, and yeah, I think he could be somewhat of a lively one in the Albert Bartlett should he go there. I'd imagine that'll be the plan. Willie spoke after Leopardstown of not wanting to come back in trip, and the way he hit the line in the Nathaniel Lacey, you'd have to think the Albert Bartlett could suit him. There's also a 50 grand staff bonus if he goes on to win in Cheltenham. So all of the staff and Willies will be hoping that they can collect that off Nathaniel Lacey.
Yeah, and I suppose looking at his strengths, he seemed to jump particularly well at Leopardstown.
Yeah, he's very fast from A to B, at a hurdle. Albert Bartlett's running a new course around Cheltenham. There's probably not a whole lot of jumping late in the race, which, it would be more of an asset to him. But the way he hit the line in Leopardstown, he wasn't stopping. You'd think he'd have a big chance in it.
Yeah, coming on then, I suppose a couple of the mares, Danny. It looks, I suppose the mares hurdle looks more open maybe this season than I suppose the season's gone by. You've already rode a couple of the mares who I suppose go there with chances this season. The likes of Heaven Help Us, of course, for Paul Hennessy, who we had on the show earlier in the season. Stormy Ireland, who you've had a good relationship with, won at Cheltenham, of course, and Burning Victory as well. I suppose, how do those compare? You obviously rode all 3.
Yeah, I suppose while they're 3 very good mares, you couldn't get 3 more polar opposites. Burning Victory, the last day of Punchestown was very good. She got her jumping together and put in the performance that everybody believed she had in her, and her previous run to that was very good. Went third behind Florence Porter and Classical Dream at Leopardstown. Then Stormy Ireland, it's a much smaller mare who really wears her heart in her sleeve. But, you know, since finding that spark again in the last year, she's gone from strength to strength. She had a good performance to win a Grade 2 at Fairyhouse, a Grade 1 in Punchestown. She just needed to run probably in Fairyhouse the first day of this year and back that up with a very encouraging win in the Relkeel at Cheltenham. It proved that, you know, Cheltenham is no issue to her and travelling won't be an issue. And then you're looking at Heaven Help Us, who also had a good run earlier in the year in the international hurdle over 2 miles at Cheltenham. That was probably a trip that was a bit short for her, but Paul Hennessy just wanted to keep her sharp, and she was just touched off then by Royal Kahala in Leopardstown over her preferred 2.5 mile trip, which that form looks very good now with Royal Kahala going on to win the Galmai hurdle in Gorn. So yeah, you know, she's tough as well, and she's won a maiden hurdle at Cheltenham, Heaven Help Us, and won the Coyle Cup at the festival last year. So she definitely likes it over there.
And obviously, cheap pieces have been mentioned. They went back on at Leopardstown last. And was the idea with that more of a sharpener for Cheltenham?
It was, you know, Paul looked at it and he just didn't want to carry top weight in the mare's handicap. And, you know, the international hurdle brought her on to exactly where he wanted her for Christmas. So he thought, you know, he was looking at the bigger picture of going back for the Cheltenham Festival and pipe opener behind Honeysuckle. And in, I suppose, on handicap rating, she wasn't beaten that far, you know. It was a decent run, but she was last of 5, but I still think it was a decent enough run from her.
Yeah, interesting. We were speaking about the Albert Bartlett, briefly there a moment ago. You rode Ramillies this season, Danny, who Willie was speaking after the race, said, you know, he may have had a bit more improvement to come in terms of how he turned up for the race physically. He's a horse that obviously went on in a Punchestown one. Do you think he could be potentially a player for the Bartlett also?
He could do. He had some solid bumper form last year. He could be an Albert Bartlett type, and could even be one from Ballymore. I suppose that'll be a decision Willie would make later, closer to the races at Cheltenham. Improved nicely from Naas, made a mistake that day, got the job nicely done in Punchestown to win his maiden the other day.
And the nice guy, of course, was in that race as well. He looks nice also.
Yeah, nice horse, and you know, a bit like MINELLA CROONER going to the Dublin Festival. They've done what's asked of them, but the potential is there for so much more.
Yeah, and I suppose coming on then, just obviously to close Sutton, Danny, just to talk about a couple of the lively chances then going this year from Willie's. Obviously, Sir Gerhard and Dysart Dynamo, they've looked mighty impressive, both of those.
They have, you know, Dysart Dynamo's performance in Punchestown was unbelievable. He jumped out, went a serious gallop and picked up and just kept lengthening that day. And Sir Gerhard, he's progressed through the season. His jumping the first day was okay. He had to go faster and do things a lot slicker in Leopardstown the last time. Got found out in places in that Grade 1, but he'll learn from that again. And to me, who knows what Willie will do, but I think Dysart Dynamo could be a horse for the Supreme. Sir Gerhard possibly go up a little in trip. While he's not slow, it might just give him a chance at that kind of 2-5 trip while his jumping is improving run to run.
Yeah, interesting. And of course, one of the big hopes of the week, Danny, Supreme winner last year, something everyone wants to know, can he beat her? Appreciated in the champion hurdle.
He definitely could. He's the horse there with all the potential. He looks in great shape at home. David Casey rides him every day. You watch him going by at the gallop. He's a real monster, to be fair.
Yeah.
You know, Honeysuckle, I suppose you look at her and you think it'll be an act of God that'll beat her, but hopefully appreciate it as the one that can give her most to think about, because it's beginning to look like a black caviar dawn run type of mare, honeysuckle, and credit to her for what she's achieved.
Yeah, and the champion chase, one that I'm sure Willie would love to get. I suppose on the score sheet this week, well, at Cheltenham. My favourite horse in training, Danny, I've made no secret, Energumene, absolutely love him. And Chacun Pour Soi, of course, who may not have shown his best at the Cheltenham Festival last year.
Yeah, that champion chase last year was very steadily run. I think a truly run race, which it should be this year, could see Chacun coming out on top. I think he's the one they all have to beat. Well, he's getting a few years older. I think Energumene and Shishkin might have it all to do to beat him, but that race in Ascot was fantastic between Energumene and Shishkin, and I think looking at that, it's difficult to see how the form maybe can be reversed. Shishkin's jumping wasn't as sharp as you'd like a 2 mile chaser to be, and he still managed to get the head down and go, but Energumene is a proper 2 mile chaser as well. So it's looking like one of those races that everybody will be looking forward to. Hopefully they all get there in Lockhart.
Yeah, just quickly on that, and you mentioned obviously Energumene, a lot of his form has been on soft or heavy ground, and that he did win a point to point on good ground. Do you think, is there potential for him, given the way he races, to actually improve again on better ground?
There could be, yeah, there could be. He's a horse that, he missed Cheltenham last year. It would have been fantastic to see him in the Arkle against Shishkin last year, but he's, in fairness to him, bar Ascot, he's came through every test so far.
Yeah, coming on then, of course, to the Novice Chase Hope this year at the festival, Galloping the Champ. Hasn't put a foot wrong, Danny. And I suppose there's debate on which way he will go. Will he stay 2.5 miles or go up and trip? What way do you see it?
I think he'll go 2.5 miles. Willie has decided, he said that on his press day that he's not going to take on Brave Man's Game, but I'm sure that'll change a few times between now and Cheltenham as well. He's jumping down the back. Some electric jumps in Leopardstown the last day, and I think even going a stride quicker, he'll be better again. But while he's been visually very impressive so far, he hasn't been tested at all yet, so he hasn't maybe got some of the real strong hard match fitness where Bob Ollinger had to really race in Punchestown the last day to beat Capitano, I think, and that might have him a little bit sharper, but it's going to be an interesting race between the two.
Yeah, and of course a race that Willie has a fantastic record in, Danny, the Arkle Chase. Over the last couple of years, obviously, Willie has been done really well in this race. Blue Lord, obviously, St. Sam, Hot and Colour, they all clashed at Leopardstown. Hot and Colour was maybe, is he maybe the unknown going to the Arkle, the fact that he come down so early?
Yeah, you would have loved to see him stand up and get into the mix with Blue Lord and RIVIERE D'TEL. He's a horse with lots of potential, a good run in the Triumph last year, but it's maybe still slightly a question mark if he can make that step up, towards the other ones. I think they all need to improve to beat the English horse Edwardstone. He was very good. Warwick is a strong test of any novice. Those 5 fences down the side really find out a horse, and that was a very good performance from him. And I think while everybody's going on about the strong Irish contingent heading over, I think day one could be plenty of it about the English horses.
I suppose just on we spoke about mares earlier. The mares novice division is one that Willie has a good strong hand in. He looks to have Allegory de Bassi, Of course, Brandy loved Dino Blue, and you rode statuary when she won the Royal Bond. How is she, I suppose, since Leopardstown, and is the plan for her to go to Cheltenham?
Yeah, she's been in good shape since Leopardstown. She just missed a little bit of time before that, and you could really draw a line through that run in Leopardstown. She looks in good shape. I seen her on the gallops this morning, and all systems go towards Cheltenham with her.
Fire over to yourself, Danny. Nap of the meeting.
Nap of the meeting would have to be ALLAHO. But I think a horse that's possibly somewhat under the radar is Course Sublime for Henry de Bromhead. I'd like to see him go for the Arkle. He's 25 or 33 there, but he has an entry in the Grand Annual as well. He was second or third to Fernie Hollow earlier in the year, and just disappointed when Henry's horses weren't at their best around Christmas. Came back to win his beginners in Gorn, and he's one that I'd be keeping my eye on, Course Sublime.
Good stuff, Danny. Well, look, great speaking to you, and see you at Cheltenham, and hopefully it's a big week for yourself and Close Sutton, and best of luck in the big races in particular.
No matter. Thanks a million, Barry.
Well, that's Danny Mullins, and more on day 3 in just a second, which of course features both the Ryanair Chase and the Stayers Hurdle. It's great that Blogger's with us. He's going to have to go before the end of the programme. So before we start day 3, and let's him give you a lead. We're looking to everybody to get A, subscribe to this podcast, and B, we are having a 5-cast competition. There's lots of prizes to be won, and we are going to try and put together a 5-cast as well and try and raise a few quid for the injured, for the Irish Injured Jockeys Fund. So, Blogger, if I may, just before we talk about the Turners, let's go through your 5. So your 5, and they are in day 1, the Champion Hurdle, you are with
Honeysuckle.
Day 2, the Champion Chase, you are with
Shishkin.
Day 3, the Stayers. Not the easiest of races to work out. Where's your shilling there?
I'm going to give Champ the benefit of the doubt and hope Nicky can master a bit more improvement out of him. And I'm going to stick with Champ.
Gold Cup.
1 horse race, a Plutard wins. Nap, nap, nap.
And you've got a wild card as well, and you can do what you like in a handicap. Go wherever you want. What's
right? We're going to go for Good Risk at All in the Coral Cup. Coral Cup,
which is on Wednesday.
Brilliant.
That's right. That's Bloggers 5. We've got those. So when you need to leave, say now. Thank you very much for being part of this very special Champ.ie podcast. Cool. And we go to day 3 then. So let's start with the Turners. And I think we can be fairly brief on this for one very simple reason. Trying to work out what does or doesn't run. Davy Boland.
I just think the Supreme and the Ballymore, and then obviously this and the Brown Advisory, it's a lot of repeating ourselves. Like I said, I think Albert Deschamps will come to this race. If he does, I think it'll be a fantastic race, a great matchup between himself and Bob Bollinger. I wouldn't say Venetia Williams' horse will even run. I'd say I'll go to Aintree. I don't think even if he does run, he'll bother these two. But yeah, I just think if these two take each other on, it's a great race. Very exciting, but be Galloping Deschamps for me.
Tommy Coyle.
It's Bob Bollinger for me. I think he's probably one of the best horses in training. Jumping was a lot better in Punchestown. He was a bit skewered in Goran the first day in his beginners. But as I've said before, them fences down in Goran are like little shit brick houses. I tell you, I got some fright the first day I rode in the beginners down there. But for me, Bob Bollinger, what he done last year as a hurdler, and he looks back on the track. I think he is a slight bit better than Galloping Deschamps. I do hope Willie's horse comes here because, as you said, it'll be a great race between the two of them. I think if they do, I think there won't be many other runners in the race because they'll frighten a lot of them off. But for me, it's Bob Bollinger.
Barry, briefly.
Galloping Deschamps. Jumping is the name of the game, and yeah, if he comes here, let's hope he does come here. And if he does, he'll win. Galloping Deschamps.
And Blogger?
Oh.
Try again.
Apologies. Go on, Steve.
Yeah, a fantastic race with the two Irish novice chasers, and both of them are so exciting. Davy, I'd ask you, can you remember two such exciting novice chasers from Ireland in the same race at the festival?
No, not off the top of my head, Stephen. To be honest, like what Tommy's saying, like about Bob Ollinger, put the two of them back over hurdles. Bob Ollinger's a better horse. Like I mentioned earlier, what he did last year at the festival was devastating. It was one of the best performances we've ever seen of a horse. But as Barry has said, jumping is the name of the game. I'm not so sure about Bob Ollinger's jumping, Stephen. I know it was better in Punchestown than it was in Gorn. They missed 4 fences down the back because of the sun. He done fuck all jumping that day, and it still wasn't brilliant. They're going to go some gallop in this, and I just think he's going to get caught out. There's something there that sits with me that he's not as good over fence as he is over hurdles.
Surely, Dave,
but the matchup is brilliant.
We know how Henry schools his horse as well. I'm sure he's been in that ring so many times. I know.
But you know what? You can be in the ring all he wants. You can be in the ring.
The old proof of the pudding is in the eating. Because I'm very anxious. I just want to move on because I'm very anxious.
No. Listen, one second.
Don't be anxious, Mike.
That's like sticking Barry in the swimming pool 7 days a week. He's not going to fucking improve being a swimmer. I know it helps. I know it helps him, Tommy. But
could stick you in, lose a few pounds.
Gallop, I think he's going to get found out. But listen, the most important part is if the two of them line up, we're going to have a tremendous race.
Yeah, well, it's Team Bob Ollinger here anyway. I can't get the Ballymore out of my head. So impressive.
I'm very anxious to know what you think, because to me, last year, if I left, somebody asked me on the way out last year, what is the best performance that you'd seen over the 4 days? I needed half a second to answer with the word ALLAHO, whose demolition of the Ryanair chase field 12 months ago was nothing short of stunning. I presume, Steve, very simply, if the same ALLAHO turns up, they're playing for second, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a one-horse race. I don't care who turns up. Nothing can go with this horse. He'll go straight to the front. He'll lead them a merry dance, and he's a phenomenal 2.5 mile chaser. This wins by as far as Paul Townend wants him to.
Davy?
Yep, I don't need to say any more. 100% to it, Stephen. He's a very exciting horse. The trip is just ideal for him, and it probably suits him because the other horses run the Champion Chase and the Gold Cup courses go that way. Maybe that's a little bit of a disappointment that he doesn't have more competition, but just enjoy it because he's an exceptional horse.
I'm going to say that I described it last year, so that he beat a series of white flags. It was only a question of what stage all the other runners hoisted the white flag. Barry, agreed?
Yeah, but you won't get rich back in ALLAHO at whatever price he is, 4 to 6 or 8 to 11. So maybe there could be some value in the without market. And I have no idea who I'm going to play here. I mean, Chamblou is very interesting. He was running a massive race, wasn't he, before he came down? Before he came down, obviously, behind Fusel Raffles. We haven't seen him since, and lots of people were talking about the Ultimar. Would he go down the handicap route? He's a very interesting horse. He's only had 7 runs. They rode him arseways at Cheltenham last year. I don't know what Harry Skelton was thinking coming down the hill. Thought he was in a Ferrari.
Don't get Davy Boland started on.
I just turned off the mute for a reason, Barry.
I got the order running wrong on this race.
But genuinely, all joking aside, I think this is a grade 1 horse. I do think he is, and it'll just be interesting to see what type of shape he lines up in here. I like Janadil, shaped like an on-stair. Eldorado Allen is one of my favourites, and I hope he runs a big one in here. Second behind Shishking in the Arkle, of course, last year. He steps back and trip again. They've decided to go this route. So maybe in the without market, something like an Eldorado Allen or Chamblou. Haven't decided yet. I'll play closer to the time, but ALLAHO wins. The lads are right.
And I was with Dan Skelton on Monday. He was talking about Chamblou, and I just think Adrian might suit him better. Davey, what was that?
I was just saying Barry on about ALLAHO jumps off him and goes a good gallop. Fuck me. Harry Skelton won't know what to do with himself. He'd be sitting on ALLAHO's tail. He'd be paralysed in the Guinness tent. He will be.
All he's got to do is come up to the horses, whisper in Paul Tannen's ear. Don't forget, there's another circuit. Final word on this one, Tommy.
Yeah, keep it simple. ALLAHO goes into all your accumulators.
So we have a unanimous verdict on the Ryanair. The stayers, Blogger, you already nominated Champ.
Yeah.
This is not by any manner of means a straightforward race, is it? Because Classical Dream ran an absolute stinker.
Yeah, big time.
Last time. But think back to Punchestown last April.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what to say about Classical Dream and the John Mahone Galmoy hurdle. Willie Mullins could offer no excuses after the race. It was just, quite frankly, a disastrous performance. Yeah, I don't like backing horses on the back of a poor run. I'm not very forgiving as a punter. I'd be very hard on horses and trainers' form in general. So I wouldn't be with Classical Dream there at all. Time Hill, we've only seen him twice this year. Obviously, second to Champ. I think we've got the beating of him. Can Flooring Porter win his second stayers hurdle? Quite potentially. He's a very game horse, isn't he? He's very tough. Been off the track for 80 days. Not a fan of horses coming into Cheltenham off the back of long layoffs. You know, I'd rather they're more battle hardened. But I do think Nicky can get Champ right on the day. Let's not forget he beat Minella and he beat ALLAHO last year. So he acts very well around this track. I think he'll be bang there at the finish. But I think the whole race is a bit of a lottery. I think if you run it 10 times, you get 10 different results.
And I would add to that, at this stage, trying to look in the crystal ball, this is one race which, to me, how soft or otherwise the ground is going to be could be quite an important factor. Although remember, of course, it's the new course. It'll be about only the second hurdle race that's run on it because they move across on day 3. Barry, what do you make of this?
Yeah, you mentioned softer ground. I'd love to see Sporting John line up in here if it was, well, I'd like to see him line up here full stop. I think the fact that Sir de Burley, I think, does Rob James ride him in the Pertemps? Maybe are they going to run both Sporting John and Sir de Burley both in the Pertemps? I'd love if he ran here. And I think he could maybe be potential each way value in this here. Best price 12-1 each way, Sporting John. Absolutely loved it. He absolutely, I think he got away on Aidan Coleman the last time. I actually think he got away on him. I'm not sure he was meant to win. For me, the one to beat in here is last year's winner. I loved his performance last year. I thought it went maybe slightly under the radar in terms of Cheltenham Festival performances last year. If he gets a lead in front, Flooring Porter, I think, could be hard to peg back. But my selection in the race, if he goes, if there's soft in the ground at all, which more likely will be, Sporting John each way at 12-1. He could represent good each way value. But Flooring Porter will be hard to beat. Because
Sardi Ballet with Rob James up, he'll claim 7. That leaves Sporting John as top weight if he goes into the Pertemps as well. We haven't even mentioned Paisley Park, have we? I mean, just again, there's so many possibles here. What is your crystal ball telling you, Mr. Coyle?
Yeah, I would definitely give Paisley Park a chance in this. That was an amazing run the last day, being left behind and Aidan Coleman. But the horse has been progressing nicely, slowly all year, and I think he's kind of coming to the boil. We know Cheltenham and the stiff hill will suit him all right, so he's definitely a player in this race. I think, I can't believe Steve said Champ. I'd say there's more chance of you pulling a rabbit out of that pint of Guinness you're drinking than Champ winning this kind of race. I couldn't have him. He's one of the strangest horses in training. Even when he bet Tyne Hill, he turned in, he looked like he was going to win by 20 lengths, and he won by a length hard. He made hard work of it, I thought. Then to be beaten by Paisley Park after Paisley Park giving him 20 lengths at the start, and Paisley Park going away well at the end. But I do think Flooring Porter, that was a bit of a freak, that race at Christmas, because if you watch it back, Classical Dream, as Davy will tell you, he's fly leapt just on anticipation of the flag going, and he's literally, you can't teach horse to do that, and he's literally got a running start on them basically. I know Danny was very, very animated and tick sort of after it with the starter, the way it went. So he's not going to make that mistake again, and he'll be very positive on the horse from the outline. For me, he's the horse that they have to beat if he comes back to the form that he was when he won it last year. So he's the one for me to he's the one to win. But I definitely think Paisley Park's each way betting the race, and Champ will be falling out of the back of the screen. Sorry, Mr. Balaga.
And finally, the gospel according to Boland.
The run, what Stephen was saying about Classical Dream, like being hard on horses, and I'd be the same opinion. You know, it's hard to forgive them off the back of a hard run, but I'd imagine that's a bit of a bounce factor in terms of he hadn't run since Punchestown, and then he came out quite quick again in the Galmoy, you know, and that's the bad run. That's what I put that down to, of why he had such a bad run. Maybe I'm wrong, but like that was a very hard race he had in Leopardstown, and it's his first race since April, you know, and then he comes out quick enough then in testing conditions in Gowran Park then. I think it's a fascinating race. I really like Flooring Porter. Flooring Porter and Classical Dream could set it up for Paisley Park, going a good gallop. He could stay on late on. But if the ground's going to be soft, the horse that I really like at a bigger price is Royal Kahala. I think Peter Fatty will be bold and will skip the mares and come to this race, getting the mare's allowance. I think she's a very good horse, and she's
she'll come here,
Dave. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think he will. The mare's race, like obviously this is a very difficult race. These are very good horses, but that mare's race is like it's a very, very good race. I think be bold here, you know, and Peter, be ballsy that way. I know one of the lads that's in the syndicate, and he said after Gowran, after she won, that he didn't say that she is coming here, but he says they'd like to be bold and take a chance. If she comes here, I think she has a right chance.
I'd agree with you, Dave. I didn't think she was going to come here, and if she turned up in here, she'd definitely enter the calculations, 100%.
Yeah, but listen, pick one. If she runs, I like her at a bigger price. If you're to put the gun to my head, who wins between the other two, I'd just side with Flooring Porter. But I think it's a very fascinating race.
And that is, of course, the big hurdle race on Thursday. That's day 3.
Handicaps, Mike, anything to throw into the mix handicap-wise for day 2 or 3? I'll throw a couple in very quickly. I threw 2 in the Ultima, and that was on day 2. So, on day 1. Day 2, we skipped over, but Buddy Rich and Sky Pirate. I think you'll get the winner between the two of those. Sky Pirate, last year's winner. I hope he doesn't do me again this year because I was on Intukas. But Buddy Rich has an ideal profile. 6 runs over fences. And look at the form that Dunvegan's Frank, the form there majorly. Winning twice, obviously, and running a good race behind Shaq and Persois at the DRF. So Buddy Rich, mad about him. He is favourite now for the Grand Annual. Big chance. But Sky Pirate, I think if you couple the two of them, you're doing well. He's about 16-1 each way. And then just, I suppose, you mentioned obviously the Pertemps on day 3. And the plate and the Kim Muir. I don't know, do the lads have fancies in any of them races? I don't. I'm not big on the handicaps on day 3.
Blogger?
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, just a little shout out for Alan King's mare here, the Glancing Queen, who's got course and distance form, running off a 1:41, second to the home press, beat Max Sada, 5th at the festival last year behind Henry's mare, Tell Me Something Girl. She's an excellent jumper. She travels really well. She likes to give her all. I think she's a great each way play at 10-1. I can't see her out the first 4. And that is in the plate, the 10 past 4 to 2.5 mile handicap chase.
Davy?
That's mad that you asked Stephen ahead of me, because that was the exact horse I was going to say, the Glancing Queen.
You can agree with him, you know. There's no law.
No, I'm just saying, out of all the horses you could pick, we end up picking the same one. I really like this horse. I weight, everything, track, the race. I think is ideal for. Of course, coming from a graduate of Colin Bowes, she won in Horse and Jockey, point to point. Another horse I like in the race who only got a pound off his Irish mark is a Wave at the Sea, who was very impressive in Leopardstown for Shane Fitzgerald the last day. So one of those two at bigger prices. Him at a bigger price in the plate as well.
And Mr. Coyle finally on day 3.
Just in the Pertemps, Emmett Mullins, as we know, is very shrewd. He the winner today, so the horse is coming into form. I like Winter Fog.
First winner since about 3 Watford managers ago. I mean, he hasn't had a winner for ages and ages.
Yeah, but he's coming right at the right time. This Winter Fog, was just beaten in a big handicap in Leopardstown for him for his first run. So he's got the feel of him now, and I think he'll have a nice weight in that. So I think Winter Fog will definitely be in the mix in the Pretemps.
So that's day 3. We've got the Gold Cup to come. The final part of the Champ.ie Cheltenham Festival preview for 2022. But before that, let's hear from a man who has sampled the ultimate glory at Cheltenham. 2016 was the year. A young Bryan Cooper was on board Don Cossack when he won the Gold Cup. Heading back this year with a number of fancy drives, and of course, total enjoyment. Won the race for his father, won the bumper for his father. And I think Bryan first saw him about a week and a half later because it took them that long to get home to County Kerry. Now he's based as part of the Willie Mullins team. And these, talking to Barry, are his Cheltenham thoughts for 2022.
So delighted to be joined on the Champ.ie Cheltenham preview by Gold Cup winning jockey Bryan Cooper. Bryan, it's been a good season, 38 winners all in all, and it's that time of the year again.
Yeah, definitely. The winners have been flown away. Have been pretty busy throughout from kind of when we came back from our break in June, and it was a long coming around again, and we're looking forward to it.
2 weeks out, Bryan, and of course cast our eyes back to the Cheltenham Festival last season. Obviously, you've built up quite a relationship with Paul Nolan, who went in, of course, at the festival last year in the Pretemps. Mrs. Milner, of course, winner of the Pretemps. How is she, I suppose, ahead of Cheltenham this year? The Mayor's Hurdle, is that the plan?
Yeah, everything is going well so far. We decided after that we put her away and go straight for the Mayor's Hurdle. She seems to be a mare that really comes into her own when the sun comes into a bit of spring comes around, and the lads are very happy with her. I think with a few schooling sessions to do later this week and early next weekend, hopefully she'll get there in one piece.
Yeah, and I suppose last year, look, you mentioned obviously the ground. The Mayor's Hurdle is, I suppose, significantly back in trip. I suppose based on it's back in trips. Do you think that will suit her?
I'm not overly worried. She doesn't lack a gear or anything. We shop right over 3 miles, so I'd imagine it's going to be a very strong run race with Stormy Island in it. It will set her usual end-to-end gallop, which should play into her favour. And look, it's a big step up onto Grade 1 level again, but if we can finish in the first 3, she's a valuable enough broodmare as it is, so that would be great. And obviously, if she can win it, it'll be even better.
Obviously, the connection Sofco was brilliant to win it last year. She's won 4 times for connections, and you mentioned, I suppose, this year, the pace in the race. It looks a more open renewal this year.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously Willie has a strong hand, maybe not as strong as other years, but I think Stormy Island sets a high enough bar. She won a Grade 1 last year at Punchestown, and she won well in Cheltenham there back in January. So she sets the bar, and I think looking forward to my mare, and it's interesting. The Paul's horses seem to, whatever it is, when they send a small but select team over the last couple of years, they all seem to run above themselves. So if she can do that again this year, it'll be fantastic.
Yeah, you mentioned Paul and his team of horses. The Boodles is a race that I suppose the Irish have a particularly good record in recent years. HMS Seahorse, for I suppose the Anne Goffey partnership. He 5 runs on the flat, got off the mark at Fairyhouse last time. Do you think he's a chance?
Yeah, he got a rate today of 128, so I think he has 10 or 10-12 or something, which seems to be an lovely wage for him. He's a real tough, hardy type of horse, and there seems to be no bottom to him, which he can suit. He was probably third. Juvenile maidens ran all year, and he punched down behind Piper and Boland. So the farmers both that has worked out very well. So he's improving from each run. His jumping is getting better, and I think he'll be there to business end definitely.
Yeah, and most of his form, I suppose, has been on softer, heavy conditioner most of his runs this season. Do you think, I suppose, given his flat form, that he could improve for better ground going to Cheltenham?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's going to be a massive help to him. And he's not the biggest horse in the world, and quite surprised me how well he got through the softer ground. So I imagine there's a bit of improvement there, and be a nice ride to have.
Yeah, speaking of the Boodles, of course, Noel Meade has Ben Seagal there. And I just wanted to ask you, obviously, we mentioned the Irish contingent in the Boodles. They seem to have a strong hand again this year. You rode Ben Seagal when he won, overheard as a Punchestown. He a nice horse?
Two guys for Noel there back there in November time, or May, October, November, and him and Lunar Power. If you were to ask me back then which was the better one of the two, I would have said Ben Seagal, but Lunar Power's form seems to be working out a lot stronger, and he's kept going through. He's been very competitive at the higher grade one level as well in those better races. So I was a little disappointed with Ben Seagal at the Dublin Racing Festival and again in May, so he'll probably have to improve, but I thought, again, Lunar Power maybe could. He's a very similar profile to HMSC horse in the flat, so I think he's a horse that race will suit him, and I imagine he's a good rider on there as well.
You built up a bit of a relationship with the Donnellys, of course, and you've been riding for Willie Mullins. Hot on Colours, I wanted to ask you about him because heading, I suppose, to Cheltenham this year, Willie obviously has a couple maybe potentially for the Arkle, but is he one maybe that you're looking forward to sitting on again, and there could be a lot more to come? There's a bit of an unknown with him, is there?
I was absolutely sick that he fell in Leopardstown, to be perfectly honest with you. He was the one horse I was really looking forward to riding over the 2 days, and I took it as bad now as any other horse falling, to be honest with you. I was just really looking forward to him, and I felt he was going to put up a massive bowl show that day, and he's a horse I like. I've ridden him quite a few times out in Willie's and done a bit of work with him last year. So look, we'll see. Willie's well as I do now, it'll be last minute decision, but of course if I was off the ride on him, I certainly wouldn't be turning him down, and I wouldn't be worried going to Cheltenham off a fall either. I think he's got a big engine. He's only 5. He's improving the whole time. So I think whatever he does this year, he's going to get better next year. So no, definitely we wouldn't be turning down that ride anyway, for sure.
And he ran a cracker at Cheltenham last year, which was first start for Willie.
Yeah, I'd ridden him work a good bit last year as well, and just had probably an interrupted campaign. He didn't get to run before Cheltenham, so it was a cracking run for Willie for his first start of the year, and he backed up. He ran well, but I think he looks a chaser in the making. He's got a great start at Saints, and I'd say he's one that Willie and Joe Donnelly are very much looking forward to over the next couple of years.
Joe Donnelly, you mentioned obviously a steering for Lange. Bit of a head scratcher, Bryan, and of course he has options at Cheltenham, which includes the Stayers hurdle. What way, I suppose, do you see it? Like, what's his future this season?
I don't know. We leave that to the man who's training him. I'm sure he'll pick whichever race he thinks he's going to be most competitive in. He's got a big engine, and he's going to land a big pot someday, wherever that will be. He just needs to get everything together. Funny, he actually isn't as much in all. Everyone goes on about him being a bad jumper. He's actually not bad. He can jump extremely well. He just is inclined to the odd mistake, but when he's good, he's very good, as we saw in Punchestown last year. And wherever he turns up, I'm sure Willie'll have him in top prime condition, and he'll be going there with a fighting chance.
I suppose looking back at his run, he was obviously well supported at the Dublin Racing Festival, Bryan. I suppose, were you disappointed the way he finished out his race?
No, I wasn't. He made a very bad mistake at the second last, which the front 2 or 3 got a couple of lengths. It's a tricky fence, and it's a very key point in the race because they seem to jump it, and the ones in front you can get away from you a bit if you miss it. And I just got a bit flat-footed for about a half a furlong or so, and Conflated and Minelella got first run of me. But if you watch it back, I kind of
I didn't really get stuck into him as much as I wanted because I felt my winning chance was gone, and he ran on quite well. And you know, I was only beaten 3.5 lengths, I think, by the Gold Cup winner. Another 4 tries I was gone by Kemba. I hit the line very well that day, so his run I think was a lot better than what it showed, and he is getting his act together, I think.
Yeah, okay. Well, best luck with him. I suppose looking at the novice hurdlers then, Bryan, I suppose that you sat on this season. Obviously, Eric Bloodaxe won the Grade 2, of course, for yourself at Limerick. That was on heavy ground that day. The Dublin Racing Festival, he didn't seem to jump with the same level of enthusiasm.
No, I was disappointed with him, to be honest. I was very much looking forward to riding in that race. I thought the better ground would definitely help him, because he actually didn't handle it at all well in Limerick. I think his pure ability got him through it. So maybe it's just one of them ones you have to draw a line through. You know, he was I suppose he had an interrupted campaign after being a bumper horse, and he was kept on, you know, he was busy enough up to the Dublin Racing Festival. Maybe the run in Limerick just took more out of him than what we expected. You know, it was very heavy ground over 2.6, and maybe left him a bit flat, and it didn't show that until he got to the races. So I'd be inclined to draw a line through it, and be interested to see where Joseph goes. I'd imagine he'll go for the Albert Bartlett, and you know, he stays very well usually, so if he can get there and draw a line through his last run, I'm sure he'll have a fighting chance.
Low mileage, and one of the only horses, or if not the only horse, is he to beat Fernie Hollow?
Yeah, I think he is in his bumper, and he's got a lot of class, and I wouldn't. I'm sure if he shows up there in the Albert Bartlett now, he'll give a good account of himself.
Yeah, Grangie, a horse that I suppose was going well, I suppose, before she came down. You won on her at Fairyhouse. She ran a decent race, of course, at Leopardstown at Christmas behind Mighty Potter. And were you disappointed, I suppose, with the last run at Fairyhouse? I believe you thought you may potentially have had Algiguri Devassi covered.
Well, you know, we're still a long way from home, but I felt I had plenty left to get to the ones in front of me. I definitely had Paul covered anyway, and because he was throwing out his left, and I felt I had plenty enough to get to Algiguri Devassi. So what I would have found at the back of the last, I don't know, but I had plenty of horse left at the time, and the misfortunate fall, because she seemed to jump it fine. She just she took a stride and knuckled over. We were trapping down to it, and she just maybe didn't get her landing gear out quick enough. But I'm sure she's none the worse for it. And I think a strong run 2 mile around, or 2.5 mile run around Cheltenham will be up her alley. And I think she'll give a good account of herself if she does go there.
Yeah, well, obviously has plenty of darts in that race. Do you think she's one? I suppose obviously she gets weight now this time from Algiguri Devassi. Could she be one that's potentially maybe slightly under the radar?
I think so, yeah. I think she definitely, the nicer ground over there hopefully will help her. And she's a listed bumper winner. She gave me a lovely feel today. She won her maiden hurdle in Fairyhouse. So she jumps well usually as well. So I think she'll give a good account of herself, especially she's not getting the penalty for winning now either. So but he's a tremendous record in the race. He's got plenty of firepower for it, but I'd say she'll give a great account of herself. Yeah, and we mentioned Mighty Potter there in the form lines. He came out, you rode him at Fairyhouse in the Royal Bond. He goes, yeah, I believe, for the Supreme on day one. He looks a proper horse. He is, yeah. I'd say whatever you see from this year, it won't be till he gets a fence in front of me. It could be the real deal next year. He's got a massive engine. He's a very big horse. He's still only a frame. Quite similar build to Balcosic, as in just quite tall and leggy and very athletic. But he's got a fair engine now, and that was only his third ever start in that Grade 1 in the Royal Bond, and it was a messy race. We didn't go much for gallop, and he got a bit flat-footed from the back of the third last all the way nearly till about 100 yards from the last, and next thing all of a sudden the penny just dropped it, and he got into top gear. As you saw what he did with Jack and Leopardstown, he looked beaten everywhere. He got into trouble at the back of the second last, and it was only when he got motoring from the back of the last that he got there. So I think So it was probably a wise decision for Gordon to skip the Dublin Racing Festival because he probably had a hard enough race at Leopardstown. And whether he's good at it, over the last couple of years, I would have fancied him big time, but it's just so competitive that Supreme this year. There's the top four who are very, very smart, and I think we could be talking about him this year. He could be favoured for the Arkle, but whether he just has the experience or is quite good enough over 2 miles this year to beat some of them ones in the Supreme, I'm not sure, but he's going to give a very good account of himself anyway, I think.
Yeah, you just mentioned, just interesting, you mentioned the Royal Bond novice hurdle, and they didn't seem to go much of a pace. And lots were saying the way he stayed on that day, maybe possibly open trip this season. I suppose, do you see, a faster run 2 miles at Cheltenham could really suit him, help him settle a little bit better, and obviously he's the strongest there at the end?
Yeah, I think he's definitely come home very well, and the quicker they go, the better it'll suit him. So might get it. You could be seeing one of them ones now. He could be struggling a bit coming down the hill and down to the second last. But let's say when he meets that rising ground, he's come home very well, and I'm very surprised if he's not in the first 3 or 4. Yeah, I mentioned a couple of guards that I suppose you've rode that are obviously found some of them in the market for some of the handicaps. You mentioned obviously Frontal Assault. The weight came out today. You rode him this season. Frontal Assault. He's favoured for the Kim Muir. How do you assess his chances? He's kind of a high enough mark now, I thought. It's up around 145, is he? I feel he got 43 or something. I just saw it today. It's high enough for him now, but he ran well. He's been competitive, been knocking on the door without winning. I think he'll improve for a bit of nicer ground, and I'm sure Gordon has a plan for him anyway. So I think he'll improve plenty from his run the last day as well. Yeah, Buddy Rich is one that's. You rode him to victory. You rode him on his first 2 chase starts, Bryan, and he's had 6 runs now over fences. We haven't seen him for quite a while. We actually saw him. You rode obviously Dunvegan at Fairyhouse. He finished behind them that day. He's had a good break. Is he a horse that I suppose goes there with a live chance to the Grand Annual? Yeah. I think he's 28 again, but I think if he does go there, he's got plenty. His form is quite strong, so definitely won't be far away, I'd say. Yeah, Bryan. Finally, look, we've gone through plenty there. It's exciting time. We could go on for another half an hour if we wanted, but you've pancakes, Steve. It is Pancake Tuesday. Taking away, Bryan Cooper, nap of the festival. Is, I think, Dice or Dynamo, whichever race he goes for, I imagine it's the Supreme. Dark horse, I think, a horse called Horse Peace, the mare and the mare's novice. She won well in Clonmel. Thereupon found him back a couple of weeks ago. She won impressive, and I think she could be a dark one for the mare's novice. Bryan Cooper, pleasure. Enjoy the pancakes, and we hope you have a good festival.
So thanks to Bryan Cooper, and also before that to Danny Mullins for their thoughts, and I'm sure we'll hear from them in the winners' enclosure as the week goes on, as the Irish go for another 23-5 triumph, and I wait to see whether Paddy Powers will actually close the Presbytery Cup market before the first race this year. The final day, all about the Gold Cup. We'll get there in a moment, but first to the JCB triumph, and I was listening to a song driving home called Follow Me, I'm the Pied Piper. Are we all going to follow the Pied Piper? Because that performance at Cheltenham at the last meeting was pretty special. Steve, blogger.
Yeah, it's a hurdle, and I've been umming and ahhing about, committing to one horse, and I don't really want to commit at this stage because I think we're still around 13 days away from the triumph, and until we see the official going, that's really going to indicate my bet. But I was so impressed with Pied Piper, a son of New Approach, and if you follow your flat racing, New Approach is a stallion. His horses improve year on year, and you could even say they're at their peak at 5. He's a really late maturing stallion. This horse looks so athletic, but it's the way Vauban beat him. And just going back to the conversation with Davy there with Classical Dream, I'm very unforgiving as a punter. I don't really give horses second chances. You can and and you can make excuses for them, and trainers can waffle on and go on and on about this wasn't right. When those horses line up at the Dublin Racing Festival and the money's on them, they're right. End of story. And Vauban took care of him. So there's no reason why Vauban shouldn't take care of him again unless he doesn't handle the Cheltenham undulations. I think it's a pure two-horse race. I'm done with Phil Dorr. I think Porticello needs heavy ground. Mike Salute's been impressive, but what's he beat on the English scene? The hurdlers over here have been pretty useless. If you pushed me between Vauban and Pied Piper, I'd probably marginally just have to stick with Willies here and go with Vauban.
Barry, agree or disagree?
Pied Piper. Sorry, a bit of feedback. Just going to cut out. There we go. Start again. Pied Piper. That was a mighty performance, wasn't it? We spoke about him on the Thursday podcast before he went and done what he did. Davy, you were mad about him at Cheltenham. I don't see how Vauban reverses the form with him. And what I like about Pied Piper is, you're going to get a strong pace on here. Always isn't the triumph. I love how relaxed he was right throughout the race. He was just so non-complicated out the back. Davy Russell. It was just ice cold, and I can see the exact same thing happening again. Him arriving there on the absolute snaff, coming to the last. I do agree with I do like Porticello, but I just worry about the ground, all his form, and just he's a big scopy horse. I reckon he's going to be a cracking chaser by Shalakov, and he could be next year's horse. I put him up on the Road to Cheltenham Challenge as a triumph bet, but at this stage I would be siding with Pied Piper.
Given what you said before, Davey, I think I know what the answer is going to be. Away you go.
Yeah, the Thursday before he ran in Cheltenham, Barry asked me for one horse for the weekend, and I said, this lad, I'm close to some of the connections with the horse, so it was a devastating performance, I suppose. Then for someone who's a Bond fan could argue that what did he beat? Probably bet absolutely nothing really. If you go on ratings, if they were to run in Ireland, probably only rated 110, 115. But all he can do is beat what's there in front of him, and by God, he did that. Jumps, travels, like that day in Punchestown when they took each other on in the maiden. All the talk on the day was Willies can't get beaten. Willies cannot get beaten. He's an airplane. He's going to win. And Pied Piper's connections were, we know we have a lovely horse, but whatever he does today, he's going to improve a lot. He hadn't done a huge amount of work at home, and he beat him. Both have obviously improved because we've seen Vauban in Leopardstown. It was a very good performance. I'd agree with Stephen about, how does Phil Dorr come back? I know there's some people hanging on to the track, and he stays well, and that one might suit, but wouldn't really be for me. He is a very exciting horse next year when he goes chasing. But yeah, for me, Pied Piper, I think he's an exceptionally good horse, and it's a very, very good race. I don't think any of the English horses are even worth mentioning.
Anything to add, Mr. Coyle, as we see the sun? You're on the move. It's that bottle you've been drinking secretly all evening. No. Anything to add?
Yeah, no, I'd be Pied Piper as well. I actually genuinely think Phil Dorr might go for the Boodles and be top weighting it, because same owners. I can see them. I don't see him win this race. If he's going to win a race at the Cheltenham Festival, it'd probably be off top weighting the Boodles for me. Pied Piper, what I like, he done it very easy, but what I like, he's gone over. He's seen the track. He acts on the track. He's been there. He knows, goes over, travels. He knows in the stables. He knows what the crack is. Vauban as well, although he's very impressive in Leopardstown, it was very interesting that Willie reached for the tongue tie first time. So there's obviously some little thing there that when he got beaten the first time, that'll be at the back of my mind. Good race, but I'm going to stick with Gordon's horse. Very impressive the last day, and I do think course form is going to be massive for him. So I'll stick with him.
Okay, before we go to the Gold Cup, let's talk about the Albert Bartlett. Davey, this looks to me like the Gordon Elliott show. Does it to you?
I hope so. I hope it's MINELLA CROONER, because I have him back from quite a while ago at quite a big price for this race. He probably didn't beat much on the day when he won in Punchestown, but I just liked, he seemed like a tough, hardened horse who has a few runs under his belt that day, that this is the sort of race that was going to suit him. Probably was, it doesn't happen often, but probably wasn't given the greatest ride from Jack in Leopardstown. I wouldn't say just Jack, I'd say the others as well. They kind of let Danny have a bit of a freebie on front, and was a very good performance. And you could see this horse was staying on late on. That's 2 mile 5 in Leopardstown. This is 3 mile. The stiffer finish up the straight and the extra couple of furlongs as well, 3 furlongs, I think is going to play into MINELLA CROONER's hands. And Stephen might tell us a little bit more about Hillcrest. But no, I really like MINELLA CROONER, and as I've said to Barry, mentioned this to him over a couple of months ago. It's a horse I'm very sweet on in this race.
Let me bring the blogger in on. I mean, Hillcrest is a monster of a horse. Henry was at the weights launch Cheltenham earlier in the week, and at this stage, this horse is not a definite starter by any manner or means.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Monsignor. Do you remember him?
Trained by Mark Pittman, wasn't he, for Markham, Denmark?
An absolute tank of a horse who won the Ballymore. I think he passed away at 7 or 8, unfortunately. This Hillcrest is a giant. He's absolutely enormous. I'm amazed he won a Ballymore.
Monsignor, actually, he bet a horse that I ended up winning 5 on him. He bet a horse called No Discount of Charlie Swans. He was second. Yeah. I ended up winning 5 points on him. He was some horse.
Oh wow!
So what did you win 5 rounds on him?
Huh?
I don't remember you winning round on him at Leopardstown.
No, I was only 4th on him around Leopardstown.
What was blogger?
Again, a little bit confused at this stage with who's actually going to line up if rain is going to hit Cheltenham. Henry Daly's had a few good horses in his time, and I just get the feeling that this Hillcrest is a remorseless galloper. I think he's got a lot of speed as well, the fact he won a bumper. And I was surprised that he was able to beat Arjet at Aintree, Dan Skelton's novice, who's gone on to win 2 by 15 lengths apiece. Look, he beat I Am Maximus. He's got course and distance form. He can win on good soft. He can win on heavy. I think this is a really good horse. And I think whoever wins the race, Hillcrest is going to be bang there. I think he's a really good animal, this. And I think he's being underestimated at 6 to 1 in the market. I think he can win.
Barry?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Steve there. I think I can't remember the last time I was more excited for an Albert Bartlett. This is a quality race. Hillcrest, he's just been crying out for the step up and trip. And there was one horse, I can't remember the name. Was it High Stakes? Went to go with him for I think he lasted with him for a third of the race. At Doncaster. He ended up out the back of the television. He made mincemeat at him. It's a step up again, but Stephen mentioned I Am Maximus at the top of the show for the Ballymore. He fairly disposed. It was hands and heels over 2.5 miles at Cheltenham in the Ballymore trial when Hillcrest bet I Am Maximus. So to do what he did there, this horse is going to be some chaser. He is a beast. He's going to be very, very hard to beat in here. It's a quality renewal. Like you look, Davy's mentioned MINELLA CROONER was staying on well at the Dublin Racing Festival. Davy, when you see a horse like Hollow Games in around 14 to 1, it goes to show you the strength of the race. The one I do like is the Nice Guy. Not your typical Albert Bartlett horse. As I said, I don't think it is your typical Albert Bartlett full stop. This horse has ran a couple of runs in bumpers and switched to hurdles mid-season. It was over 2.5 miles when he won his hurdle race at Naas. Ramillies has come out and backed up the form since. He was finished third that day behind the Nice Guy. But what struck me with the Nice Guy is how well he settled in the race and how well he jumped for his first start. And fascinated to see Willie send him straight to the Albert Bartlett after just one run over hurdles and 2 runs in a bumper. That's a very Mullins-like thing to do. I think this horse is a very good horse. And look, again, I think Hillcrest will be hard to beat. He's well found enough in the market. But Nice Guy for me. I've backed him at bigger prices. I think you can still get 10 or 12 to 1 on him. I would fancy him to run a very big race in the Albert Bartlett. The nice guy, just named after my good self.
Well, no, I was going to suggest it was actually named after this next voice.
That my cue, yeah.
That's you, Mr. Coyle.
Yeah, no, look, I think Davy's on something here. I think if Jack had another go at that Leopardstown race, you probably would have got a different result. He's the one to beat. Journey with Me has form. He's beaten him as well, so he's not going to be far away from the Bromhead team, who seem to have come back into a bit of form lately as well. Just one a bit further down, probably a bit of a hope, but that Lawler's race, Willie's horse, What Do We Want? He was actually favourite that day. Definitely something amiss that day because he didn't run up to expectations. He had beaten Ginto first time out in the bumper, so we know he's closely matched with him, although I do think the step up and trip is going to help him. So he's a bit of a player for me at more of an each way price. For, as we know, the Mulryans like to target Cheltenham as well for races, and they do have a lot more horses now with Willie as well. So he could be interesting if a bit of money comes for him. But I do think the step up and trip, and Jack isn't going to be asleep as much maybe as the last time in Leopardstown. So MINELLA Crooner for the win, and Willie's other horse if he runs in this What Do You Want on the each way marker.
So that brings us, ladies and gentlemen, to the Champ.ie preview of the Boodles Cheltenham Gold Cup. The race on the Friday, the final day, 3 miles and a quarter, 22 fences. Have you, was your mind set, blogger, by the events at Haydock in November?
Yeah.
Demolition, Absolute Tar in the Betfair. Has
Yeah,
it almost
absolutely.
been game over ever since for you?
It was indeed. I mean, to do what he'd done in the Betfair chase was just incredible, the way he jumped around. And Henry's normally improved for their first run. So for him to beat Royal Pagaille in that manner was pretty outstanding. And he's only 8 years old. And, you know, who wins a race at the Cheltenham Festival by 17 lengths? From the moment he won that handicap, we knew we were dealing with something pretty special. I still can't believe he got beat at Christmas time in the Savills. I'd done my absolute bollocks that day. I didn't eat for 2 days afterwards. I was so sick. I'm a huge fan of Rachel Blackmore, but I think if she had the chance to ride that race again, I think she would ride it slightly differently. I'm still lost for words at how he got beat in that. But Henry's had a funny season. You know, I often tweet about trainer stats on Twitter. As a punter, I think what trainers are doing on a weekly basis is so important, especially for the big yards, the Paul Nicholls, the Hendersons, the Mullins, the Bromheads, the Elliots. And Henry was operating there at a 6% strike rate for almost 7 weeks, which, you know, is pretty, it's not good. So I'm really willing to forgive that run at Christmas. And the fact he's still 4-1 to me, he could be a 2-1 shot if he came in here on the back of romping that. So I'm going to double my stakes down, and I'm going to have an even bigger bet on a Plutard to win the Gold Cup.
So there is, well, at least you've nailed his colours, his trousers, and his money to the mast good and proper with that.
Absolutely.
Davy Boland.
It's a tough one. I've changed my mind a couple of times. I've been an Absolute Tard fan for a long time, and even more so after Haydock. I'm not so sure if I lost as much as Stephen, but fuck, I tell you, I lost a lot of money at Leopardstown. I was sick. I couldn't see him getting bet. I texted a couple of lads before declarations are done. I said, lads, your man's 11-10. I says, you may as well go balls deep on this lad, because he won't be when they declare. And then they declare, then he was 8-11. Anyway. I suppose I wouldn't say people are writing him off, but Russell probably gave the horse exceptional ride in Leopardstown to win. I'm not saying he wasn't the best horse on the day, but Russell was unbelievable on him. So, and the extra 2.5 furlongs will suit Galvin. He'll be there. Russell, the way he rides him as well, he conserve a lot of energy, and he'll come late, and he'll definitely be thereabouts. Minella in though, like he won it last year. I suppose he did step up he left the Kempton run behind, which he needed to. I've no problem putting a line through that. That was a bit mad, the tactics of going so hard out in front. But look, he obviously wasn't himself then. He did run better the last day, but still he was beaten a long way by Conflated, wasn't he? But I'm going to stick with Applutard. His run last year was unbelievable in the race. The Betfair was devastating, and as well, like the last day wasn't bad. I know we were disappointed he got beaten, but he was just outstayed slightly bit, maybe a little bit better ride by Davy. But I think people need to give Galvin a little bit more credit. 2.5 furlongs will help him. I think these two will fight it out like they did in Leopardstown.
Let's remember, of course, Galvin's 1 over 3.6. So Cheltenham Hill, aka Heartbreak Hotel, won't cause him a problem. Speaking of heartbreak, Mr. Doyle.
Yeah. How can anyone look? I know he's the Gold Cup winner, and I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, but how could anyone put hard-earned cash on Minella Endo to win the Gold Cup? In all fairness, and I'm 100% with Steve here. I think Applutard, as soon as he got beat, I don't think it was the real running. I don't think it was his real. I don't think it was the real Applutard showed up at the Dublin Racing Festival. And the first thing after the race was finished, he ran well. Henry's horses weren't running well. First thing I thought was, great, we're going to get a better price on Applutard for the Gold Cup. He's the best horse in the race, in my view. Protectorat he'll be lapped in the Gold Cup. Alboom Photo, I don't know, the vibes are quite negative. Conflated doesn't go here. And you come down the list, and again, I like throwing one in at a bigger price. Tornado Flyer is one that's overpriced for me. He's the King George winner, and everyone seems to think it was a fluke. They went to fair pace that day. Has he only had 3 runs at 3 miles? Sorry, it'll be his 3rd run from at 3 miles or 3 miles plus in the Gold Cup. He's a horse that could be, I suppose, quite unexposed. He is a 9-year-old, but he's quite lightly raced for a 9-year-old. 12 runs and 3 runs from 3 miles upwards. So this will be his 3rd run. So he's interesting, I think, at a bigger sort of a price. He is a double-figure price, and I can't remember the last King George winner that was such a price going into a Gold Cup like this. But the one for me to be with is Applutard. And the one to follow him home, Tornado Flyer, in the Gold Cup.
If he gets the trip, I think it's the key thing. It's one thing to win a King George over a flat 3 miles around Kempton. TC?
Yeah, I see where the boys come from. I really do like Galvin. I know it was a masterclass by Davy, but I do think the extra couple of furlongs is going to be massive for this horse. And I do think if the ground did end up a bit soft by Friday, it'll even suit him a bit better because, as you've said, he's won over further. He's come up that hill. He's been a revelation there in the last kind of 18 months as well. So Gordon could have a good day here. Look, I know Barry's saying people can't put their money on him, but I took a lot of positives out of Minella Endo the last day. And look, it's the trip as well. All he does, that horse, is stay. And that's how he won it last year. He outstayed Applutard up the hill last year as well.
Would you be confident he'll run his race in the Gold Cup this year? Would you put?
But you have to realise, Henry, as we've said plenty of times, Henry's horses haven't been bad, and he's banged in a few winners last weekend. It's the first double he had in a long time. So the horses obviously are coming back. Look, it's the Olympics. He's gonna, if there was a little problem, he's gonna definitely had that ironed out in the last 2 months. It's Henry Bramhead. He's no ordinary eagle. They know the time of day. So look, I forgive him that Kempton. It was crazy. Even Rachel put her hand up and said that was the most stupid ride she ever probably given a horse. But I do think he's going to be thereabouts. And Alboom Photo as well. He has been.
Jeez, Tom, you have to mention every horse in the race.
It's a bit like listening to you, then, isn't it?
You'll be mentioning Chantry House in a minute.
No, I won't.
So come on, let me tie you down. What wins, Tom?
Galvin for me.
Right, okay. We move to the rest. The thing about day 4 is, of course, you've got 3 big handicaps to get your head round. So there's a chance to lock horns with the bookmakers in some style, including the Martin Pipe and the County. So what's caught anybody's eye? Davy, Boland, do you want to first go here?
Yeah,
I
just
got the batting order wrong last time.
That's all right. Just very quickly, I like Chemical Energy in the boys' race in the conditional in the Martin Pipe for Andy and Gemma Brown for Gordon. And a horse I like an awful lot. I might be seen as having a little bit of a biased opinion, but I don't know, it's not all about what people deserve in life. But if anyone deserves a Cheltenham Festival winner, it's Barry O'Neill, 5-time champion point-to-point rider. Just touched off on Discorama a couple of years ago. And I think he could get a winner this year. Winged Leader, Billaway is favourite for Willie Mullins and Patrick, who was impressive the last day in Naas. But Winged Leader, trained by a very shrewd and very clever man in David Christie. He's a horse that takes quite a lot of riding. He's not simple. Barry knows him inside out. I think this race is going to be ideal for him. They go right good gallop in it, even over that extended trip. But Barry will be able to be patient on him and take his time on him and get him into a rhythm and get him jumping. He beat Billaway on his last run. Now, I know there was, Willie did say after the race that Billaway needed the run, but still, I like Winged Leader. I think he's a very good bet in this race. Look at his form. Like, he mightn't have beaten much in his point-to-points or in the 100 chases that he's won, bar the last day when he did beat Billaway and beat him quite impressively. I think he's a big price for the horse that he is. If he was in another yard, and that's absolutely no disrespect to David, if he's coming from one of the big yards, he's going to be an awful lot shorter. So he's one for me on the last day.
Barry Doyle.
Adamantly chosen in the Martin Pipe. Comes in here off the same rating as Gallop in the Champ last year, 142. He's had 3 runs over hurdles. And I like his form. You know, Gringo de Brel, I think he's off a good rating himself. May go in the county hurdle. I don't know, can Davy confirm that? Ebisari, another horse who is going to be a lively player, I think, in the Boodles. He was shouldering a lot of weight that day on bottomless ground at Cork. So, but he's come out, I suppose, on last start and absolutely ramped up at Thurles. He's a very interesting player and has a nice blend between speed and stamina. Adamantly chosen 10-1 each way for the Martin Pipe. Very interested. He's entered in the county as well, but the way he looks to me to have the right profile for the Martin Pipe, so very interested in him.
I'm going to save the legendary blogger till last on this. Tom Coyle.
Yeah, one in each. Magic Tricks in the county hurdle. I've followed the horse. I've put him up so many times, and he's hit the crossbar. I do hope Shane Fitz gets on him again to take 5 off him. He was done by Davy Russell the last time as well on Call Me Lyrene. Davy Russell, I think that was the same day as Gavin. I think Davy Russell would have won a Davy Boland Shetland ponies at the back that day if he was riding them. He done us again.
You could have ridden him to victory.
He done us again, but I think if Shane Fitz gets on him and takes the 5 off him, he's battle hardened and good graded hurdles, good graded handicap hurdles, so he's definitely going to be there. And the one horse that I've picked out, and I done one show with Barry for the Road to Cheltenham, and it's Banbridge in the boys' race. Yet again, Shane Fitz rides for Joseph O'Brien. He done well. He beat the horse that I put up from Mick Halford's ALLAHO in Navan in a good novice. He's in this race. He's 16-1. There's been nibbles of money on him. He was a good bumper horse. I do think Shane Fitzgerald is probably one of the best conditional riders, definitely in Ireland, and he wouldn't have a whole lot to look at over in England at the minute. Sorry, blogger, but they're not up to much of a standard. So I think if Shane Fitz is on him in the boys' race, he'll take a lot of beating. He's a good horse.
I'm just going to throw one in here. I'd love to know what Uncle Willie's up to with 5 o'clock, a horse that's in the Martin Pipe race that he's farmed. Won the Michael Purcell a couple of years ago, and I think we've only seen him once. He finished 7th in the Pipe of 2020 and not been seen since. Do I smell something? Anyway, by way of a plot. Anyway, blogger, real joy and pleasure having you here. I do like your shirt. I hope very much you still have it. By Martin Hyde, conditional jockeys, race time on Friday week. What about these final day handicaps?
Yeah, I've just got one quick one for you. Then I'm going to jump in a cab from here to Camden and go and see Brendan Powell. So short and sweet for me. Broomfield Berg for Nicky Henderson and Jake McManus in the county hurdle. He beat a horse called Lively Citizen, who's come out and won since. He beat Black Poppy, who's come out and won since. Black Poppy runs at Newbury this Saturday in a 6-runner race off a 10 stone 2. If that's 3-1, that's a bet, by the way. But I think if Nico can bury this hard puller at 16-1, he'll be bang there at the finish. It's been a pleasure. Great to see you all. Barry, I'm not too sure about your selections this festival, but I look forward to seeing you all over there and sharing the black stuff with all of you.
And the same to you. And, Brendan Powell, one of the good guys. Hope you have a good night with him.
Indeed. Take care, boys.
Blogger, and we thank him very much for being part of this Champ.ie Cheltenham preview of 2022. Lads, we're not quite done because we need to hopefully try and raise a few quid as well. First, let me remind everybody, please, subscribe to this wonderful, unique, unrepeatable production. Champ.ie, you know what to do to subscribe. And secondly, do please enter, because we've got some very special thanks to Davy and also to Ronan Groom, who's not. I was trying to work out where Ronan might be tonight, and I just wonder whether it was the 4th of the month, and he was a little bit worried about the fact that he hadn't taken the missus out, and I thought, no, I'm not going to go there, or whether he's actually really is trying to get that clairvoyance monthly job. We need to give you the thoughts of these four eminent people. Well, 3 of them are eminent, and that is the 5-cast. And what we've done is we've picked the feature race each day and then added a complete wild card. In other words, you can help yourself to what else you want. So I'm going to go round to the 3 lads, and I'll throw mine in as well, and we'll do it race by race. So let us start with Tuesday's feature, the Unibet Champion Hurdle. Barry Doyle.
Appreciate it.
Tommy?
Honeysuckle.
Davy?
Honeysuckle.
I'm Honeysuckle as well. On to Wednesday, and the Betway Queen Mother, a terrific horse race in prospect. Barry, you've got your hands together in prayer. You are with?
If he goes, Energumene. If he doesn't, Shishkin.
Tommy?
Shishkin.
Davy?
Shishkin.
Me, Shishkin. She's getting a bit repetitive, isn't it? I suspect that this one will tear us apart a bit. The Paddy Power Stayers on Thursday. Barry?
Flooring Porter.
Tommy?
I've changed my mind. I'm just worried about Gavin Cromwell's form. I'm actually going to stick Paisley Parkin.
Davy?
If Peter Fatty goes this route with Royal Kahala, I'm going Royal Kahala. If not, Flooring Porter.
And I'm going to think this might. You can prove that I am completely mad, because I think this might be one Grade 1 that stays at home. Put me down for Tyne Hill. Yeah, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. Gold Cup, Barry?
Plutard.
Tommy?
Galvin.
Davy?
Plutard.
And I'm Galvin. So that's a score draw. And the Freedom of the Parish hit here. Help yourself to what you fancy. Barry Doyle.
Buddy Rich, Grand Annual.
Tommy Coyle.
Good day for the Bartletts on Friday. Banbridge and the Martin Pipe.
Davy.
For this selection, I picked an 80-1 winner last year, and Jeff Kidder. So, shop around well, because there is a huge difference in price with some bookmakers. Joy Machine each way in the bumper, 40-1.
Oh, Davy, Boland, take it away.
And I am going to go unoriginal, but it was the most blatant case of non-staying I've seen in a very long time in a group race last time, drops into a handicap. I will chance McFabulous in the Coral Cup. I hope this has been a McFabulous program for the last 1 hour, 38 minutes and 20 seconds. But you want to have there's a fight as always on these occasions for the last word. Let's start with you, Davy.
I'll just say a couple of things, if you don't mind, before we go. I think Miss Milner, we didn't cover the race. I think Miss Milner has a huge chance in the mare's race. As I mentioned, it's obviously hugely competitive race. She bolted up in the Pertemps last year. She bolted up again in Limerick. And then she went to Newbury and she probably ran a little bit below par. But James Nolan would take maybe a small little bit of blame for that, saying that she'd done a piece of work with the since then ill-fated horse latest exhibition that was just unbelievable piece of work and probably bottomed her a small bit. She loves traveling. She's brave. She stays. You can't beat having the course form. I really fancy her in the mare's race. And another horse that I'm very interested in seeing is which race she goes to is Echoes and Rain. She's on the English handicapper's only given her £1 more, Mike, which is now I know that brings her to 150, right? But you can never beat grade 1 form in handicaps. I think she's very exciting, whatever race Willie runs her in.
So please put your 5 casts in, and remember they've got to be the 4 feature races as the panelists have done, and then you've got a completely free shot at anything else you want. There'll be a nice prize courtesy of Champ.ie. Big thanks to Davy Boland. Good to see you back on the program, Davy, and hope very much that I will see you at Cheltenham, because it seems far too long since we did. One day we'll get the Coyle to Cheltenham. One day. Is that a promise or a threat?
That's a promise.
And I'm not. It's about the same with the mother-in-law here. But luckily, I just keep telling her that I'm going to see a few priests, and of course there is only one Barry Doyle. You're not done yet, Davy.
I was just going to say, last time I did see you was in Cheltenham, and I'll see you there. I'm there for the week. Barry, are you allowed to go to Cheltenham or?
Yeah, I'll be there on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, and I'll be in Bristol on Paddy's Day, and I will be in Uncle Tom's cabin on the Friday in County Louth.
Well, all one could say is that his new wife's thumb has gone in for repair. On which note, thanks very much for watching this. You've had an hour and 45 minutes of tips, and a special thanks to the blogger for joining us as well. We'll be back when we're back, and if we're not back, it's probably because somebody's on their way to the Costa Fortuna, having taken those darling bookmakers that we love to the cleaners. From all of us, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Inside the final 150 yards, this is a special year, and it's a hands full of grace. And it's Energumene opening up a clear advantage in the closing stages. A breath of fresh air over fences is going to stay at the helm of the 2 mile novices. Energumene by a